Yo, we are in here live. I had to push it back a little bit. The time, man. I had no idea that everybody's going live today, man. I saw Blue Blood live. I saw Southern T and Boxing live. I saw I Am Trill Will live, and I saw Ricky Williams live. I was like, damn, everybody's going live, man, at the same time. But you know what? This is not a normal time for me, and I know people normally have their time slots and they run their live shows, man. But for me, unfortunately, I just got to fit in when I can fit in because my schedule's just crazy stupid. So, I just wanted to get this in. I pushed it back a little bit, another 15, 30 minutes at least, so we can allow people to kind of jump around. I see my man, Canelo Local Sports. Salute to you, bro. I saw you jumping around to the other channels that were live, and I appreciate you stopping here as well. I did send some invites to some other channels to see if they want to come on and chop it up with me tonight. I know Ricky Williams usually goes live for about an hour or so. He might catch the tail end of my live tonight, and also I Am Trill Will. So we'll see what happens, man. But nonetheless, I got to get it in. Like I said, Nitty G in the building, Freddie Ruger. Man, Freddie Ruger, bro, what's good? I haven't seen you in a long-ass time, bro. What's good, man? Glad you finally made it. Nitty G, man, still an official member of the channel. I got to show you much love and appreciation, man. One of the original official members of the channel. So, like I said, man, a lot of people are live right now, so I don't expect a big amount of people to jump in here right away, but they could filter in a little bit later on. Watcher, what's good? I think I sent you an invite as well, Watcher. You might want to check your email. Plat Boys, what's good, man? I also sent you an invite. Check your email. Cano Loco Sports, what's good, bro?
What's going on, man? Shoot, yeah, I was jumping around trying to show everybody love, man. You know how it is, man. I didn't realize that many people was going live either. I was like, golly.
Yeah. I didn't either, man. And some, I'm one of the type of people that kind of do it last minute. I know some people, they plan it like way in advance. So, which I actually prefer because then you can kind of be like, all right, this guy's going to go at this time, so I don't want to fuck with his time, right? But tonight it just seemed like everybody just went, like domino effect, bop, 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 bop. And I was like, oh, but, it is what it is, man. Like I said, I got to get it in. And I've had this Canelo thing in my mind for the past week or so. And I haven't seen too many channels talking about it too much. There's been a lot of hype around the Spence and Ugas fight coming up, which I'm going to talk about soon as well on another live stream. But this Canelo fiasco, I just wanted to get my thoughts in, and I'm sure, Kano, you have your thoughts when it comes to this as well. And so, look, the title of the live stream is pretty straightforward. We all know that there's a lot of back and forth between who Canelo's going to fight next. the top three names that have been mentioned is obviously Bivol, Charlo, and Benavidez. Those are the main three names. When we go back, we wanted to tape about a month ago. He's supposed to fight what's his face, the dude up there at cruiserweight, whatever the hell it was.
Macabre.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's still in the conversation, but I haven't heard his name mentioned recently, and I don't know if Canelo decided not to do that or what the case may be. But for me, I've been saying it for years that it should be Charlo, and I haven't changed my opinion on that. And I'll let you cook on a little bit, Kano. But for me, in a nutshell, right, when I look at Benavidez, Charlo, and Bivol, I think that the fans, right, rather you hate Canelo or you love Canelo, deep down, they want to see him fight Charlo, right? Because on the side of the people that hate Canelo or find Canelo's movement as far as how he's hopscotching around collecting belts, which is a very popular opinion, who are not Canelo fans, they feel like, well, you got Charlo here. You keep saying that you're the best of the middleweight, super middleweight divisions, but yet somehow you seem to not fight Charlo. So now you have the opportunity to do it. And will you do it is the question. And if you do it, then we'll give you that respect. Right. But if you love Canelo, you want him to fight Charlo too, because you're probably getting tired of all the people talking shit that you haven't been fighting Charlo. So it's a win-win, and it's a fight that you can sell. It's a nice style matchup as well. So stylistically, you can sell it. Personality-wise, you can probably sell it. And so to me, it makes the most sense. And that's just my opinion in a nutshell. I have a lot of other extra, opinions about it, but that's what it is in a nutshell. Are you in agreement with me, Kano, or do you have some other type of idea of who Canelo should fight?
Man, listen, Bivol shouldn't even be mentioned. Macabre should not be mentioned. I mean, I don't know how they could put Bivol and not Better Biev. I would rather see him fight Better Biev than Bivol. But I don't want to see him fight either of those two. I think it should either be Benavidez or Charlo. And of course, I'm going to lean more towards Charlo because let's think about this, man. Let's just put feelings aside and all of that other crazy stuff. That fight's going to be the one that's going to make the most money. That's the one that's going to sell. That's the one everybody's clamoring for. They're both good names. Like Canelo, we already know. They say he's a superstar, so they say. And Charlo, you already know everybody's going to want to watch him too. So if you're going to make a fight like that, and it's going to be on pay-per-view, it needs to be Charlo, without a doubt about it, man. Like I said, Benavidez will be a close second, but we all know it should be Charlo. Win, lose, or draw. I'm not even talking about who will win the fight. We just want to see the fight.
Right. And, there has been speculation, too, like that Charlo didn't really want it, and Charlo was just, popping smoke. And, I mean, for me, the thing is that it depends on what side of the fence you're on. See, that's the problem, right? Because I go to some channels, and they protect Canelo with their life. And they're out there talking shit about Canelo. He's doing all the right things. It's not Canelo's fault, this, that, and the third. Benavidez don't want it. Charlo don't want it. What is Canelo supposed to do? He's got no choice. And I'm like, really? You know what I mean? Like, that's how we doing it out here? And there are a lot of channels who are talking that. There are channels live right now talking about it, as I'm live talking about it. And I just don't agree. I just don't think that is true. I think that Canelo is in a position similar to what Mayweather was at the tail end of his career, being the A side, and he's picking and choosing on who he wants to fight, how he wants to fight, and that includes the purse, the venue, pay-per-view, his cut, etc., 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 and that makes it difficult to get the fans what they really want to see, right? So to me, it's a question of, all right, what do you care about most, Canelo? Do you care about collecting these belts and then just basically continue to ride the wave of these big Canelo fans that are going to love you regardless and just carry that wave into your retirement and say, you know, I was the best Mexican fighter of all time. I was undisputed at super middleweight. I collected all these belts, blah, blah, blah. You know, I went up to cruiserweight. I took that belt there, whatever it may be. You're going to continue to ride that wave. Or do you really care about your critics? Because there are a lot of critics too, right? So which one is it? For me, it's like if you fight Charlo and you lose, it's not the end of the world. The great Julio Cesar Chavez lost fights, right? And he's still regarded as the best Mexican fighter of all time in most people's eyes. So it's not the end of the world. So I would imagine that if you can beat Plant and you can beat Triple G and you can do the things that you've done in your career, you shouldn't be afraid of Charlo, right? You shouldn't be worried about Charlo. That should be easy pickings, right? A guy that's, you know, predominantly been 160, now he's at 168, you know, and the weight class fits, everything fits. You've already been in the ring with Mayweather, so you've already sold the idea that, oh, I've already fought Mayweather, and I've learned so much from it, and it doesn't matter what style I see, I can beat it. That's what you have sold to the people. So why are you worried about Charlo? It should be like, all right, let's just get this dude out of the way because I'm tired of people talking shit.
Well,
now, yeah.
I mean, you know, your point is proven though, man. You know, a loss ain't gonna be there. He lost to Mayweather and it didn't hurt him.
Facts.
You know, so I mean, you know, his career actually escalated. So him fighting Charlo, win, lose, or draw, is gonna put him in a bigger tier. You know what I'm saying? And the problem with these fans is, look, let's use me as an example. Shakur Stevenson is my favorite fighter, right? There's nothing wrong with having a favorite fighter. But if Shakur Stevenson does not clean out 130, I will crucify him for not doing so. See, that's the difference, man. You have to hold these fighters accountable. Now, if Canelo comes out and says, look, I'm just a prize fighter, I ain't worried about legacy, and he comes out and say that, that's fine. Now, if he wants to go for legacy, then he's not moving in the right direction. See, that's the difference. Like Tank Davis tells you he's a prize fighter. He's letting you know he's collecting his money. So that's why I don't never say anything about Tank's opponents, because he's already told you. Canelo hasn't told you any of that stuff. Shakur hasn't told me any of this stuff. So until they do, I'm going to hold him accountable, man. He was at 154 and didn't clean that division out. He could have been undisputed there. Chose to move to 160. Wonder why. Then at 160, when it got a little hot, you know, he went to 168 because why? In my honest opinion, I don't care how anybody feels, it was the easiest path to undisputed. There was no resistance. Benavidez lost his title on a scale. Oh, I got a clear path now. And he did that. And fine, you did that, but now clean 168. Get the Benavidez. Get Charlo. Do that. Then I would respect it, although I still wouldn't put him on a pound for pound for the simple fact that he's allowed to use Cambuterol. I don't care how nobody thinks and feels about it. He's allowed to use it because they raised the levels and they never once posted on there how far up they raised them levels. Does anybody know what the levels are that they allow? Because they haven't put it up. So that's letting you know that he's allowed to use it, and you're never going to know because even if they test him, they raise the levels. He's good. He's clean, quote unquote, supposedly. So how
but Kano, he was punished for it though. Let it go.
No.
That's what they say. That's what they say.
What do they have to say about these raised levels that they have put no number on? That's what I would say. Do you know what the level is?
There's literally no, exactly. There's literally no level right now, right? So, you know, I don't get into that part of it too much because it tends to piss people off, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like Plant said at the press conference, at the end of the day, did you test positive? Yes, you did. So shut the fuck up. That's it. I don't care how you cut it or slice it and how you want to deliver it and how you want to beat around the bush about it. And you can tell, too, by the way, for all the Canelo fans out there, I see my man Arturo in here. look, you can tell that it bothers Canelo when people bring it up. It bothers him. Now, it bothers him for two reasons, and we don't know which one reason it is. You can have your opinion. It bothers him either one, because he feels guilty about it and he's tired of people bringing it up, and or two, he basically, he feels like people have it misunderstood, and you know what I mean? Like, and he's made up his own story. You know how people are pathological liars? And I'm not saying Canelo is, but I'm just saying pathological liars, right? They know how to prove to themselves by making up imaginary stories in their head and justify things that they do constantly, so they feel like they never lie, right? It's something that females tend to do a lot. This is real talk, right? It's like you find your woman cheating on you. What's up? Like, why are you cheating on me? Well, the thing is, though, boo boo, you haven't been paying me attention. Oh, so you go and fuck another dude then? Oh, but it ain't like that. It ain't like that. You know, the thing is, like, I've been waiting for you to come and hit me up, but you don't hit me up, so I got needs. Oh, so you fuck another dude? No, boo boo, it ain't like that. But that's how it is, though. That's what pathological liars do, because they justify everything that they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can tell that it gets under Canelo's skin tremendously when people bring it up, right? So rather you feel like it's relevant or irrelevant, or he was punished for it and that was sufficient or not, the fact of the matter is yes, he did test positive, and two, it does bother him. It does bother him a lot. So look, man, that the pound for pound thing, should he be on the pound for pound? I guess. You know what I mean? I guess, because, when you look at it on paper, right? You look at it on paper, he is the undisputed middleweight champion. He's done, his resume is pretty good. It could be better, but it's pretty good. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you do have Charlo out there. You do have Benavidez out there. And so what are you going to do? What are you gonna do?
I can't let
I'll tell you what.
I can't let you slide with that. Is Roger Clemens in the Hall of Fame? Is Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame? Is Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame? And why are they not?
Yeah, but Canelo's career ain't over yet. We don't know if he'll be a Hall of Famer, but he more than likely will.
Would that be fair? In your opinion, would that be fair? When in other sports, they don't put him in there because of that same reason.
Right. So if you're talking about consistency, then I would say, no, it's not fair. If you're not going to have Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, then yes, you can't put Canelo in there if it's consistency. Now, if it's my opinion, I feel like Barry Bonds and Clemens should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
Well, we can agree on that. The thing about it is, man, this is what bothers me, man. And people think it's hate on Canelo. I don't even hate the guy, man. This is the thing, man. He's got talent, Divine Sense. He's got talent. That's what frustrates me, man. Fighters that usually use this don't even need it. Like, why do you even do it? You could just go in there on an even playing field, man, and do your thing. There's no need for it, man. That's why I get upset with fighters that do that. I'm like, my man, you could have won that fight without that. So you took the chance, and now you got a cloud over your career because nobody knows when you started using it, or if you're still using it because they raised the levels. That's a cloud over your head that I just can't overlook. I can't overlook it, and I don't care if the people get mad or not, because shit, they're not gonna do nothing to me.
The problem is that when we talk about baseball, it's baseball. We talk about football, it's football. We talk about basketball, it's basketball. But the thing about it is boxing, people literally die. Literally. So my question is, when people say, "Oh, come on, Divine, don't play that card." Okay, well, here's a scenario for you. What if, and it's relevant in boxing because people do die.
Yep.
If Canelo tested positive and then the last guy he fought ends up having brain damage. How would Canelo feel, number one? And how would the boxing world feel, number two? Thank God that he did test positive and nobody did get extensive damage from it, from after the fact. But what if? See, this is why, right? Nobody wants to have these conversations. Just like when Oscar de Valdez popped, right? Everyone was like, oh, well, oh, poor Valdez, he looks so distraught. He looks so confused. Oh, poor Valdez. Oh, I think he made an honest mistake. Maybe. But what if the dude tested positive after the fact and the dude he fought ends up getting seriously damaged or killed? What would you guys say then? See, in baseball, we don't got to worry about that. You're knocking the baseball out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is why we say the things that we say when it comes to illegal drugs or illegal substances or illegal performance-enhancing supplements in the sport of boxing. So it's either one or the other, right, when it comes to boxing. Well, in most sports, but let's stick on boxing. Either we say, you know what? Boxers can take whatever the fuck they want to take. Everybody, it's up to you. You want to take it, take it. Everyone's on an even playing field. Or you got to be natural, and if not, get the fuck out of the sport. That's it. None of this like, oh, well, what about this substance? Or what about the levels of that substance? Or, oh, I had some tea in this. Nah. Either you natural, you eating your steak and potatoes, and you natural, like the old-time fighters, or we say, you know what, everybody's going to cheat anyway, so let people just take what they want to take. Then the increase of deaths will obviously be something that we would all have to accept, right? So I want to say this too real quick, Kano, and I've said this many times. What's up, Arturo? I've said this many times, right, that I want people to go down memory lane a little bit. I've been talking about boxing for quite some time, and I know, Kano, you have too. And I know you got some years on me, with all due respect, to respect my elders. But I remember when Sugar Shane Mosley got caught with EPOs right after the Oscar De La Hoya fight, right? And Shane Mosley got crucified in the media. People were literally saying, get this dude out of boxing. That win that he had doesn't count because he's probably been cheating. Like, and Shane Mosley went to court and pleaded in front of a judge, basically begging the judge to not take away his boxing career. Go down memory lane. If you don't believe me, it's on YouTube. Shane Mosley standing in court, begging the judge, pleading the judge, sorry, judge, I made a big mistake. Please don't take my boxing license away. Please don't do this to my career. And the media was shredding him. And it took Mosley years for people to finally be like, okay, let's forgive him. Let's let him come back. See, people forget about this shit. But when Canelo popped, when Valdez popped, what were people saying? Oh, it's an honest mistake. A little slap on the wrist. Give him take 6 months off. Valdez even worse because he wasn't punished at all.
Mm-hmm.
But with Canelo, it was like, let's just keep this quiet. Just stick back to the backdrop for about 6 months. It'll all go away. Time heals all things. It's all good, right? In the meantime, Shane Mosley's in front of a judge pleading, begging, crying. So that's the absurdity, right? So when people say, oh, there isn't no favoritism in boxing, really? Well, I just gave you guys the perfect example right there. Right there. See, that's the thing, man. I always tell people, we don't live in the past because you can't change it, but we reflect in the past because it gives us a gentle reminder of what not to do and who not to be. Right? That's why we have to look at the past. To me, what baffles me is you got the old-time fighters, right? where they getting. I was in a conversation with a guy not too long ago, and he was like, "Oh, Divine, but I think you mistaken. Like old time fighters were finding supplements too. Oh, I'm sure they got a hold of fucking opium or cocaine or some shit. I don't know. I'm sure."
I was around. I seen.
Right. So but I'm talking like 40s and 50s, right? And so I'm sure that there was some plant or some herb or something they could get a hold of that boost their stamina or boost their endurance or boost their testosterone or whatever it may be. But the history of ancient combat sports is riddled with athletes and soldiers and whatever it may be trying to get an advantage. I'm not disputing that. It's been there since the beginning of time. I'm going to eat this fucking mushroom and I'm going to feel like Superman and I'm going to run up in the crowd of soldiers and I'm going to start slashing motherfuckers because I feel invincible. Right? That's been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is now is we're in 2022. Right? And what's more astonishing is that, okay, here check this out. If we want to make the argument, well, oh, but Divine, the old time fighters, they were finding, herbs and plants and shit and other ways to enhance their performance. Okay, but you know what? They were fighting sometimes 6, 7, 8 times a month. So I don't care how much drugs you take, the amount of damage that they took in the ring over a course of a year, it's not even comparable to a man who only fights 4 times a year and is taking drugs. Because the amount of recovery that you can have in between those fights is incomparable to the old-time fighters. I don't care how much drugs the old-time fighters took. At the end of the day, we're not immortal. And they probably felt like they had to take those drugs because if they didn't, the whole goddamn body will break down with the amount of damage that they took back then. So that's the thing, right? Now, I don't want to go off on a tangent too long. I got my man Arturo in here, right? Most of us know. I got a lot of respect for Arturo. He's always coming and showing love to the channel, but he is a Canelo fan, and so I'm glad you came in here, Arturo, because we want to hear your opinion. So let us know.
Well, first, thanks Divine for having me on. The way I look at the Canelo thing, I kind of don't even want to touch on that. I think that's a topic. If you want me to, I will, but I think that's kind of like beating the dead horse. As far as whether or not I feel he belongs in the Hall of Fame, I do, or I think he will be, and I do feel he belongs. Do I feel he's a pound for pound, 100%? Do I think he should fight Charlo next? I hope he does. There's a lot out there for him to choose, and we've talked about this before, whether or not he should move to 175 or fight at 168. Bivol isn't a bad choice. But him fighting Charlo and Benavidez is not a bad way to go. It gives him an opportunity to defend his belts a little bit before he does move up. But he's always said that he's gonna, he wants to do something different and he wants to build his legacy. So going to 175 isn't a bad way about doing that as well. Locking up a title and fighting Bivol. If you take Bivol separate from, let's say, if you were to line him up against Charlo or Benavidez, Bivol will be the best fighter that either one of them have ever fought as well. So it's not a bad way to go. But if I had my choice, again, I don't have his career and I'm not the one managing his who he's going to fight. But again, I say that fighting Charlo would be an ideal fight for 168 and have him defend once or twice before he moves up to 175 and then ends up probably finishing his career.
Arturo, so let me ask you a question. As a Canelo fan, do you support the idea of cleaning up a division before you want to move up and conquer other weight classes? Or do you support the path that Canelo has taken recently, which is win a belt here, win a belt there, 160, 168, talking about going to 175, and basically hopscotching around?
I guess that's all opinion. I think he's earned the right to do it now at this point, to do what he wants. I know he gets a lot of flags saying he's dodging this person or he's dodging that person, and again, we can probably go back and forth, and I'm sure we will at some point. during the conversation. I mean, he won all the titles, so you could argue that he did clean up. Whether or not Benavidez, he lost his title or whatever, well, that's not his fault that Benavidez lost his title. That's Benavidez' fault for losing his title, and he knows that, and you can tell just by the way his interviews go. You can tell that he's like, it's on me, and now I got to do the humble part and work my way back in order to be able to get that Canelo fight. And then, so would I prefer it? I think that's just like a preference thing. I think that, yeah, I would like him to fight. Actually, I would like him to fight Charlo just because all the Canelo haters out there, you know, are saying that he's been dodging Charlo and going back and forth. So I would love to fight Charlo. I think it would be a good fight, not just because I feel he's going to run him over, but I think it'd be a good fight. I still think Canelo wins, but it'll be a good fight. And the same thing with Benavidez. But again, there's a lot of detractors, and all they want to do is see Canelo lose. And every time he beats someone, like, for example, if he were to fight Benavidez, he can fight him at 175. He doesn't need to fight him at 168. He could fight him. Benavidez has said himself, he's not staying at 168 very long. He's going to go up. There's a lot of fighters at 175. And Canelo's a small dude. I think he's better fit for 168, in my opinion, as far as his frame and everything else, than going up to 175. But if he chooses so, he's earned that right. He's fought. I mean, again, you talked about resume. When you look at his resume, I can't see many active boxers right now that have a better resume. You can argue some that are active fighters right now, but there's not many, if not one.
All right, yeah, and I'm glad you said that too. As far as me mentioning the fact that, yeah, as you said, the detractors, quote unquote, and the people that tend to hate on Canelo, you would want him to fight Charlo too. So it's not just the people that dislike Charlo, but the people that dislike Canelo and the people that like Canelo. I mean, I think it's pretty fair to say that both sides want to see him fight Charlo. Either you want to silence the critics, or you want to see Charlo go in there and get an opportunity because you believe Charlo has a chance.
But to say he's ducking him, I don't think so.
Well, first, I'll let Kano come in here and give his thoughts, but real quickly, I want to recognize my man, Platt Boys, who comes in here and says, yo, why don't fighters simply just want to fight the best? It baffles me. This is something that we talk all the time, Platt Boy. This is literally like the beef and the meat of our conversation, I guess you can say, every time we come on here live is like that. I mean, that's what we want. I mean, that's why people going at each other's throats when it comes to Spence and Crawford, right? Literally going at each other's throats. Like, friendships no longer exist because these two men seem like they don't want to fight. That's how ugly it gets. So yeah, this is something that we're always like, you know, why are we not getting these fights? But I appreciate you in that super chat. You're always one of the first ones to drop that super chat, and also one of the original official members of the channel. I always got much love from my man Platt Boy. Kano, do you got anything in response to what Arturo just said?
Well, first of all, man, I appreciate Arturo because at least he comes in here with a logical head and is creating a good conversation, man, that's not based with feelings or anything. So shout out to you, Arturo, for that, man. I respect your opinion, man. Heavy, but I don't look. Bivol is not a bad fight. Let me go ahead and say that, okay? Bivol's not a bad fight. I think just that the Charlo and Benavidez will be a better fight, and it would also generate him more back end money. Arturo, it would make him a lot more money, and moving up to 175. I agree. I don't think he should do that, but if he is gonna do that, he should fight Better BF as well. Now, what I got to say about the 168 is, and I say this just to go ahead and get this out ahead of time, I say this about any champion in any weight division. So this ain't directed at Canelo alone. Cleaning out your division is not just getting undisputed. Cleaning out your division is getting the top threats of that weight division out of the way as well. AKA like what Usyk did at cruiserweight. He cleaned out cruiserweight.
Facts.
I don't see many fighters cleaning out the division right now. Josh Taylor is the closest thing to cleaning out the division right now because of the way the fights had to end up before he faced Ramirez. So he hasn't cleaned out 168 is what I'm saying, man. Now, he doesn't have to. Like you said, he earned his right to do whatever he wants. It's just that the fan base will look at him one way if he cleaned out the division and will look at him a different way if he didn't clean out the division. And I do that with every single champion on every weight division all across the board.
Is it all right if I jump in?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I do agree with you. So then I look at Canelo's age, and if he's gonna jump to 175, now would be the time as far as his age wise. He's at the appropriate age to start making that jump because I don't think he's gonna stay there. In his 35, 36, that might be brutal for him. In my opinion, it may be on the tail end of his career. It could be uh, something messed up, something that he shouldn't do. But even all the guys that we're talking about fighting, when you had right now, we were talking again about Charlo and Benavidez. I mean, those guys could go up to 175. Canelo's the smallest dude out of everyone that we're talking about, as far as who he should fight and step up. Um, uh, so cleaning him out again. Charlo wasn't even in the division. He's coming up to fight. To go up to 166. He does want that fight, and I think naturally he could carry that 168 weight. And Benavidez again, he can fight a prime actually Benavidez at 175 when he's 25, 26 years old. So again, I don't think he's necessarily dodging that bullet. As far as money wise, I mean, we still don't know. Obviously, we only get what we get as far as what he's going to make, but nothing's set in stone. I still think that that's a possibility that he could fight Charlo and Benavidez and stay at 168 and then go up in campaign. Because again, Triple G is also not a guarantee. We're assuming that he's going to beat Murata. I think he will, but we're assuming that. We don't know. He's, his days are long gone, but there's still, again, those Canelo detractors who are like, he needs to fight Triple G again. But I'm like, I really don't want to see that. He's close to 40 years old. If he beats him, he gets nothing from it. He's going to get flack for it. And so, he gets flack either way. He fought him too early. He fought him too late. So it's kind of hard because he's also in a tough position because there's no one really right in their prime like, hey, that's the dude that he needs to fight. That's the other killer on the other side of the street. So there's other that we assume, just like people thought Plant was gonna outbox and outshine Canelo. And at the end of the day, I thought it was a good fight, but Canelo did his thing. I mean, he doesn't. Whether or not you like the way he went about beating him is one thing, but he did his thing and he put Plant away. So I don't know. And being 5'8", I think that's still a pretty impressive feat.
Yeah, sure. I think one thing that we had to have in a conversation now is both of you mentioned the right to. So Canelo has the right to make the decisions that he sees fit for his career now because essentially he has earned his right to. Now, let's talk about that a little bit because I think we want to define that a little bit clearer. What gives you the right as a champion, as a prize fighter, however you want to frame it, at this level? What gives you the right to say, I don't need to clean up a division. I can go and capture other weight classes if I want to, et cetera, et cetera. So what gives you that right? Is it because you have a certain type of resume, or is it because you are able to generate a certain amount of money? Is it because you're on the pound for pound list? Like, what exactly gives you that right to do that, right? For me, personally, if you ask me personally, what gives you the right to make those type of decisions, which Canelo has been in this position now for quite some time, okay? This isn't a recent thing. Canelo's been in this position for quite some time to be able to make these type of decisions, and for the most part, people accept it. But in my opinion, the way that you should get that right, and I believe you do get to a certain point in your career where you can make these decisions, sure. But how you get there is by cleaning out your division, by taking care of, as Kano pointed out, and I agree with Kano, is fighting those threats, right? At some point in time, if you look at the welterweight division, at some point in time, Bud and Spence and Ugas, however that plays out, they're going to have to, they may not, but they should, and I will criticize them, and many of us will, if they don't fight the likes of Ennis and Ortiz, who are young lions, who are a threat to the division, right? So for me, it's a matter of you got to clean up your division. You got to handle those threats like Usyk did, just like Kano pointed out. That's a perfect example right there. He cleaned out the whole damn division. He won all the belts, and he cleared out all threats. That gave him the right to then move up to heavyweight and beat Joshua. That's how I see it, and that's what I agree with. So I think that's the conversation we should have as far as at what point do you have the right to then say, you know what, I've done everything I can here, so I'm going to go ahead and move up and conquer other weight classes. Do we agree or disagree with my assessment? And we'll start with Kano and swing it around.
Well, listen, that doesn't mean that we have to agree with Canelo at all. I don't agree with him moving that way, but at the end of the day, he's the Golden Goose, man. You know what I'm saying? He is gonna be allowed to do whatever he wants, and people just have to listen. You ain't have to like it, but you gotta accept it. It is what it is, man. You know, he's the cash cow right now. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but it is. I say, look, I'm not a fanatic of the way he's moving, man. I want to see him fight the best. But if he doesn't, I'm not going to get mad about it no more. I'm just going to move on from it. That's all really I got to say on it, man. I really don't want to belabor that too much because I don't know, man. It's just like, man, come on, man. We all know what we want to see, but if we don't get it, we're not going to be able to get it. Well, we can't force them to fight these fighters that, and everybody wants them to fight somebody different. So everybody's going to be of a different opinion on who he should fight next. So I would just like him to eliminate the threats. That's just me. But he don't have to listen to me, Arturo, K-Rob, Big Doc Willie, Divine. So he's not going to listen to us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we have to at least express our thoughts, I think. That's why we do what we do. That's why we're content creators, to say, well, yeah, you're going to do what you want to do, Canelo, because, you are the Golden Goose. And I agree with that. I'm not saying he's not. But at the same time, like you said, we don't have to agree with it. I mean, we all have a voice to express our opinions, and that's what we're doing. K-Rod. He saw Canelo in the description or in the title, and he was like, "Yep, time for me to come in." So, K-Rod, do you agree with my assessment that in order to say I can do whatever I want, that you gotta handle your business and clear all the threats? Do you agree with that?
Yep, I agree. I pretty much believe in the old saying that if you have enemies that are standing in your way, you have to kill every single one of them to let everyone know that you're the deadliest, threat around you. And I think that's, like a very similar concept to boxing because, if I'm in that same position, I want to make sure that my name is, to be the number one guy in my division. And, you have to claim, that spot to become number one. And, I'm just a believer of, when you say that you're the best, you have to take everyone else that stands in your way. And I think, based out of what you said, that's a good, fair assessment to, go about that type of philosophy. So.
Most definitely. So far, I think we're all on the same page. Let's see if it continues. My man, Big Dog, man, it's been a while, bro, since you've been on the panel. How you doing? And what are your thoughts?
I'm good. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there, brother.
That's good, man.
Trying to get this channel up popping again like it was before.
All right. Say that then. The only problem I have with Canelo being the so-called Golden Goose is I think we, like I said, we're all at the same point of our thinking is the fact that I think he too much wants to be that Mayweather type guy where he can just do whatever he wants. And and he's not there yet. He's not there yet. Mayweather didn't get there until he was 34, 33 years old. He's not there yet. And I don't think he will get there anytime within the next couple of years. I think they just put him up there because they had to have somebody like Mayweather. And he's not. I don't really feel him. He's a great fighter, all time great. I'm not gonna put him down. He's a great fighter. I don't really like him because of his drug use and him cherry picking. But I just for right now, man, he's not there for me right now. But boxing needs a golden goose, so he's that guy. So that's all I can say.
Arturo, what are you thinking?
I kind of, I do agree with some of what you guys are saying, but I'm still, I kind of have a hard time with it in this sense. He fought Austin Trout. No one wanted to fight him. He was tricky. He fought him. He fought Floyd Mayweather. He fought Triple G twice. Most avoided man at 160. And he fought him twice. So he has fought Lara, same thing, dodged, and he fought him. So he has fought fighters that wouldn't necessarily benefit him to fight because of their style of boxing, and he could have went other routes. So he's done that. Now, yeah, if you want to criticize him because he fought Rocky Fielding and he fought Yildirim, I mean, you can look at any champion, and they all have fought some easy wins or whatever it may be. So all fighters have done that. I think. To get that right, I think he has paid his dues. He's fought people. Sometimes there's opportunities that have come up. You would say he dodged, but maybe he fought someone. The opportunity showed up. The money was there, and so he went. Now, if you don't respect that, that's fine. That's a matter. Again, this is all obviously opinionated. So, in just my opinion, I just feel like he's paid his dues. Could he, stay and fight and keep fighting at that way? He could have, but he also could have not jumped up to 175 when he did, or not jumped up. And again, were some of those moves calculated? Yes. He doesn't need to even be at 168 at his height. He could probably fight at 160 if he wanted to. But he took the fights, he adjusted, and that's where he feels comfortable. So I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say. And again, obviously, yeah, I am a Canelo fan, but that doesn't mean that I'm not a boxing fan. So. I respect boxing. I think that what these guys do is amazing and probably top athletes in the world. But yeah, I think he's earned that right to kind of start making his decisions on what he wants to do and how he wants to close out his legacy. And so, but you'll always find someone that says, that person, dodge. There's probably very few fighters that you could say that they didn't dodge anyone and really went after it. And again, whether you're a fan or not, but you'll always have someone that on the other side of the street, which what makes it fun, just chopping it up.
Yeah, I mean, and let me say this, Big Dog mentioned Mayweather, right? And there are guys out there that Mayweather didn't fight. There are a couple fighters out there that I would have liked to have seen him fight when he was active. But the thing about Mayweather is, in comparison to Canelo, is Mayweather defended his titles more than a few times, right? So, and at times he retired, he came back. But when he retired and came back, and if he got another title, he usually defended it, right? So, but you're right, Arturo. There's always going to be some guys out there that we could look back. Oh man, I wish this fighter would have fought that fighter. We wish that Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson would have met earlier, and they met later, or even Pacquiao Mayweather for that matter, right? We're never going to get exactly what we want, but right now, right? And let's do this right now. Canelo, if Canelo's a golden goose, right, and we all agree that he is, he has the ability to fight whoever he wants, right? We all agree on that. So right now, he's got Charlo, he's got Benavidez, he's got Bivol, he's got Bitter Bdev too, if you want to throw him in there, and he got Triple G. He's a cash cow. He's a golden goose. He's a pound for pound. He can choose who he wants to fight. So it's not a situation where, they're too old or it didn't line up properly, so they couldn't fight. At a time when Mayweather and Paul Williams was in a conversation, I think that they both probably would have fought each other, but unfortunately Paul Williams had his accident. So we're not talking about a situation like that. We've got 5 fighters who are willing and able to fight Canelo right now. So let's swing it across the panel and see what we come up with right now in the poll, right? As I have on the channel right now, I just put Bivol, Charlo, and Benavidez in there. But of course, like I said, there's some other names that maybe you feel is better. So far in the poll, we got Bivol at 16%, Charlo at 55%, Benavidez at 24%, and 5% said, oh, it doesn't matter because he's the GOAT. So obviously those people are trolling. But I put that in there just to expose the trolls, by the way. That's why I put that option in there. So let's swing around the panel now. And I'll start it off on who I think he should fight. Obviously, it's in the title of my live stream. It's Charlo. It's Charlo, 100%. Because, like I said, rather you like Canelo or you dislike Canelo, you want him to fight Charlo. Because either you want Canelo to silence the critics or you want to see Charlo get the opportunity and you feel like Canelo should do the right thing and clean up those names to really solidify his legacy to say, you know, not only did he capture all these weight classes, but he also cleaned up threats. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's Charlo, and stylistically, it's a great matchup. You can sell the fight. You know what I mean? I feel like if Jermall Charlo has the opportunity, I think he's going to do his best to try to sell it and hype it up. And, you know, it's America, Mexico. I mean, shit. All those things line up, in my opinion. You can sell it. It'd be a great stylistic fight, and it satisfies both sides, people who love Canelo and people who can't stand Canelo. So for me, it's Charlo. Kano, who's your pick for Canelo next fight?
Man, I would like it to be Charlo, man. I really would. Like I said, it just makes the most sense for both fighters, actually. You know, I mean, I don't know how people don't see that. I'm not concerned about whether you think Charlo wins or whether Canelo wins. I just want to see the damn fight, man. I want to see the damn fight, man. If it ain't that, it needs to be Benavidez. Those are the two names that should be there, period. But that's just where I'm at with it, man. I do got to run, man, but I appreciate you allowing me to be on the platform.
Always.
Yeah, I'm an old man. Welcome. I go to sleep early, man. I stayed up a little later just for you, man.
Hey, stretch those legs out before you sleep, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. Thanks for coming by, man. You're always welcome. All right, so far in the panel, we got two people. Kano just left, but his vote counts because he expressed his opinion. So far, we got two people saying Charlo. K-Rod, where you at? Where you at with your opinion on who Canelo should fight next?
I think it should be Charlo. Simply because Charlo, he's not the biggest, threat to Canelo's career. And I think Charlo, being a victory over him, would solidify his career. So I think Canelo should go ahead and fight him instead of fighting Bivol or Triple G.
There you have it. So we got three. Arturo, who should Canelo fight next?
I'm gonna. It's definitely not Charlo. Charlo's not a 168er. So if we're talking about cleaning up the division, he's barely coming up. So if you wanted to stick to consistency, it isn't Charlo. It would be Benavidez, if anything. I think if he would beat Benavidez, then that would clean up officially the division as far as that goes. So it'd be Benavidez or Bivol, so that way he could start working on unifying the 175. So then he would fight the winner of Smith and Archer B. So that's my opinion. I think it would be Benavidez at this point and fighting and cleaning up the 168 division.
Right. So let me challenge that just real quickly. So I think the idea is that Canelo has ducked Charlo at 168. The problem is that he ducked him at 160. But now Canelo is at 168. So therefore Charlo has to move up and challenge Canelo at 168, right? So that's what the critics are saying. Is like, he had him at 160. He had an opportunity to fight him at 160. It didn't happen. And so now there's an opportunity for Charlo to move up and fight him at 168. Now, so Benavidez wants to move up to 175. So that means Canelo has to move up to 175. So it doesn't really matter how you cut it or slice it. Somebody's moving around, right? Somebody has to go up, go down. And at the end of the day, Charlo, as you said, as you pointed out, Arturo, he can make 168. No problem, right?
Right, but we were talking about cleaning out the division. So, and then who was already at 168. So initially, Charlo hasn't fought at 168. Now, it would be a good fight. I'm not saying don't fight him. And then just so he had an opportunity to fight Canelo as well, but then you got to bring in articles and everything else so that way you can read, and then you'll decide whether or not that was true that Canelo could have fought Charlo, and whether or not that was all just smoke and mirrors. But anyway, but yeah, so I agree. I think that Charlo would be a good fight. So I'm not knocking Charlo. I'm just saying who I would like to see if I was doing it and saying who's going to really clear out the 168 with currently. That's Benavidez. Once Charlo fights at 168 and he goes up there and he does his thing, then I think he could fight Charlo afterwards. But Benavidez would be for me the next fight, and then he can clean up with Charlo if Charlo does well at 168.
I mean, I see your point. If you're going to say, oh, clean out the division in 168, okay, Charlo's not officially in 168. Benavidez was, but he's not going to be. So it's a bit tricky, and I see what you're saying. Like, if you're talking about cleaning out a division, okay, cool. But once again, for me, it's like, well, he was at 160. He could have fought Charlo, and he didn't. So let's just make it happen at 168. And I'll give him credit for that. I would count that as cleaning up your division because at one point, Canelo, you were at 160. So essentially, you're inadvertently cleaning out the division, even though Charlo isn't officially at 168. So that's just my opinion. But let's swing it around to Jimmy. Who do you think Canelo should fight next?
To be honest, mate, I think they're all good fighters. It really depends on, I guess, stylistically what you prefer. To be honest, it's actually disappointing because the fight I want to see him fight the most is actually not on the list. Demetrius Andrade. Out of all the American fighters, I always thought Bubu Andrade would give him a tougher fight than Charlo, because I always thought Charlo was a bit more slow, robotic, and basic. Someone like Andrade that was a lot more slick, fast, awkward angles. I always thought he'd give Canelo a much more difficult fight, just a tougher puzzle to solve. But as far as Bivol, I think, moving up to weight 175 and winning a title, I think that's probably a better legacy fight, because a lot of fans did criticize him when he fought Kovalev. They were saying that you should fight Bivol. And I just think stylistically, Bivol with his jab, he's really fast, good boxer, quick feet. I think he's probably got higher sort of boxing skills than Charlo. Charlo in his last fight did not look good against Montiel. And before that against Korobov, he didn't look good either. A lot of fans I know hype up Charlo at 160, but I always thought Demetrius Andrade, he was kind of the boogeyman at 160. Not so much Charlo, but if I had to pick, I think out of all of them, I think probably Bivol, because he's naturally the biggest guy. He's got a good jab, fast feet, good boxing skills, and he can punch a bit. And also, he's the only person on that list that actually brings a belt to the table. So if he beats Benavidez or Charlo, they don't have any hardware for him to win. But, I'm cool with any of the fights. They're all good.
Yeah, well, I guess you're right. I mean, you look at Andrade, Boo Boo, like that's a good point, man. He's talented. He's hungry. He can also get that fight, but the reality is that he's just not in the conversation at all. Like when it comes to Canelo, I mean, the names that have been mentioned recently have been Charlo, Triple G, Bivol, and Benavidez a little bit. So those are the names that have been mentioned. Sorry?
I find it weird though. With Charlo, there are rumors that he negotiated with him in the past, and now he's negotiating with him again. But with Andrade, he's never once tried to make that fight. So I felt like maybe Canelo deep down probably knows that's more of a difficult puzzle.
Yeah, for sure. And it was Andrade who he disrespected at the press conference as well. So that's another added kind of thing that if you're Andrade, you're like, yo, like I haven't forgot about that. I haven't forgot about that time where I stepped up to you at the press conference and said, "Hey, man, let's get it on," and you told me to go fuck myself.
Yeah.
And all I'm doing is looking for a payday. So look, you could throw his name in there just because that like he has earned it. He does have the skill set. He does have the ability to beat Canelo and all those different things. But unfortunately for him and for boxing fans, his name is not being mentioned in the conversation. And maybe that's because of Canelo's side. Maybe they're not throwing his name into the mix because, like you said, he doesn't want to be involved with Andrade. He's like, I ain't trying to deal with him right now. Maybe Charlo, I think I have a chance to beat him. Triple G, I've been in the ring with him twice already. I can probably get him out this time because he's older. Bivol, He's a bigger guy, but I think I can outbox him. That's probably how his mind is turning right now. And
Yeah, it's
so,
like you said, he called Andrade, in his words, a horrible fighter. And when he was asked about Charlo's style, he said, "Yeah, that's a very good style. I feel like we can make a good match." So someone who you're calling horrible isn't that, I guess that's more difficult to deal with, isn't it? Someone who has a horrible style for you.
no, that's the way it is, man. Styles make fights. Big Dog, where are you sitting right now for Canelo? Where do you think he should go next?
I think you should fight Charlo. I think about him. This is the weird thing about this. Um, he left 160, but he's going to fight Triple G at what weight?
Yeah,
If he
that's
fights
true.
Triple G.
Yeah.
And so I don't understand why he couldn't fight. Like, I would like to see him, Dimitri Andre, too, before Charlo. I think for him, I think that'd be a more difficult fight. But is he going to go to 160 and fight him? Is that only for Triple G? Or what? That's why I don't understand. But Charlo, I mean, with Canelo, his moves baffles me sometimes.
Who's that?
Canelo.
Right. Yeah, but I think now that we've been kind of speaking about it, this is why I like to do these panels, because people bring in different ideas and opinions, and it makes my mind open up a little bit. And yeah, I didn't really think about it that way. And Jimmy brought up a good point where it's like, yeah, that makes sense to me now. That's how Canelo's mind is operating. I think he's thinking, okay, Charlo, he's got to move up to fight me. He's got to come from 160 to 168. I've been at 168. And I don't know if Charlo can do well at this weight class. And I think stylistically, I can match up with him well and I can beat him. Then he looks at Triple G. Like I said, already been in the ring with him. Yeah. And to your point, Big Dog, is it going to be 160, 168? I would imagine he's going to force Triple G to go up to 168. Because if you're willing to go down to 160 and fight Triple G again at 160, then why wouldn't you just go down and fight Charlo at 160? Why force Charlo to go up to 168?
That's why I don't understand. I don't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then it's Bivol, right? Bivol, you got to go move up. He's a bigger guy, but I think I can outbox him. I think I'm quicker than him. I think I have more experience than him, and I can beat him. So then again, we look at Andrade. We're like, I think he's a real threat. He's big. He's tall. He's got speed. He's got power. He's vicious. He's hungry. He can take a punch. And if you're Canelo, you're like, And the other problem is not a lot of people know, I think, maybe in his mind, that not a lot of people know Boo Boo as much as they know Charlo. So then he's thinking about the money as well. Can I really sell this Andre fight? Can I? I don't know. And it's risky. So that's the way it goes. We got Stormy B Man in the building. He just finished one of his lives. I went over to your live real quick just to let you know. Hey, Stormy, we in here, man. I was saying earlier, everybody seemed to go live at the same time tonight. I am Chill Will, Ricky Williams, Stormy B Man, Blue Blood Sports all went live literally at 8 o'clock. So I'm glad that everybody's starting to slowly start to filter in to catch the tail end of this live, and it's always good to have you a part of the panel, Stormy, as always. Let me real quickly get to my man Platboy back in that super chat. And he says Andrade can become the mandatory if he moves up, being the WBO champion. There you go. So now we got another monkey wrench into the situation, right? He's a WBO champ, so he could essentially become a mandatory. So, I think Canelo's in a tough spot right now. This is why no decision has been officially made. Literally. Because he's like, I think he starts leaning one way and he's about to put pen to paper. And then people pull him the other way. It's like, oh, well, what about this? So he's in a tough situation, I think, as being, the undisputed and the Golden Goose and the cash cow. And he's got, and at the end of the day, just like Mayweather, everybody who's below you, they want a piece of that, right? They either A, want an opportunity, or B, unfortunately, it's true, they want that payday. So Canelo's in a tough spot. I won't deny that he isn't, but you still got to make the right choice, I believe, to satisfy both your critics and your supporters. So therefore, who should you choose? And with saying that, Stormy B-Man, who do you think Canelo should choose for his next fight? With what I just said, being that you want to satisfy your critics and your supporters.
He should fight Charlo. He should fight Charlo and put to bed a lot of the concerns, a lot of the questions, to pacify a lot of the angst that exists in the sport from guys curtailing and not going forward with legacy defining fights. Though Canelo has accomplished a couple of things in his career, you need to really ask yourself, how many legacy defining fights has he had? And in those, whom has he defeated? And I think you'll draw a short straw if you ask yourself those questions. Because just because some of the men that are around, they have names in the sport, but they don't carry the weight and merit of true legacy defining fighters. Look at it this way. If he's the man right now, right, someone defeats him, they gain off of the legacy he has. But whom has he gained off of? He lost to Floyd, and then he had a couple of fights that were a little shaky, but he got favorable decision. Triple G has opted not to fight anyone outside of him. So even that, as it ages, doesn't look very good. So when you're honest with yourself, he has contemporaries that have been there the entire time, that goes down to when he was at junior middleweight or a couple of pounds above junior middleweight, and he didn't fight certain individuals. There's about 4 names are still active, and all of them are still around, and he still has not elected to do that. How can you give him so much credit when his assignments are incomplete?
Well, you heard it. You heard it here, man, from the sensei. Like, look, see, this is the problem, right? This is the slippery slope, I think. And if he decides to, let's say he decides to go fight Bivol. Now, the Canelo supporters are gonna praise that, right? Oh, he's stepping up, 175, fighting a bigger guy, and all that cool stuff. But here's the thing I want to put in perspective, and maybe I'll swing it back to Arturo because he is a Canelo supporter. Is that, look, imagine this scenario, right? Canelo decides, you know what, I'm going to go up and fight Bivol. In the meantime, let's say Benavidez and Andrade fight. Let's say Charlo and Andrade fight. Or whatever, however it plays out. All these guys start fighting each other, but somehow Canelo fights Bivol, then maybe he decides to go to cruiserweight and fight somewhere up there, and somehow doesn't fight any of these guys that are all fighting each other. Eventually, you're going to get whoever it's Benavidez. You can maybe throw Plant back in there if you want, and all these guys, Andrade, all these guys. You mesh them together. Eventually, somebody's going to come out on top, right? But Charlo never fought any of those guys, and potentially never fights a guy who does come out on top of those names I just mentioned. How is that really going to look for Canelo's legacy? What do you got to say about that? Arturo just left. Now he's back in. Arturo, did you catch what I said?
I probably missed the last 10 seconds of that.
Yeah, so imagine all these guys, right? They all fight each other, right? The Benavidez, the Andrades. You can throw Caleb Plant in there. I know Canelo already beat Caleb Plant, but nonetheless, all these guys all fight each other, right? Eventually, somebody's going to come out on top. Now, imagine Canelo is busy taking on cruiserweights, light heavyweights, whatever it may be, and never fights any of those guys who are meshing together. And more importantly, doesn't fight the guy who comes out on top of that 168-pound division if they're all fighting each other, the Charlo, the Benavidez, the Andrades, and all those guys. How would it look for his legacy if he somehow doesn't fight any of those guys because he was busy conquering other weight classes? What's your opinion?
I would think it would be incomplete, like Stormy B put it. It would be incomplete if that was the case. My earlier choice of saying Benavidez was because of what was said earlier as far as the 168. I do feel like Charlo, in my opinion, is the way to go, just because of everything that's gone on, the dodging and everything else, as far as whether or not he has. I think overall, I think that Charlo is the choice. But yeah, it would I think it would hurt his legacy, obviously, if he goes up there and he doesn't fight these other guys that are finally fighting each other. I think that would hurt them. So it depends on what we're I guess what we're talking about when everyone's bringing up their point of view of whether or not someone should clear a division out before they move up or not. Because Charlo would be someone that didn't clear out the division. He never fought Boo Boo, right? So it depends on the thing. But for me, like I think Stormy B said it best, I think that Charlo is the fight to go to. But again, that's like, if it was up to me, and I was the one putting it, be Charlo would be my first pick as far as legacy defining fight. I think it would put to bed a few little stories and things that are out there. Otherwise, there's just going to be a bad taste in certain people's mouth, and that's going to be brought up every single time.
May I shine some light on something else real quick with that? After what Arturo just added, let's just say this: going up to different weights, if it's a higher weight, of course that's what he's doing. But he's not even fighting the best guys when he does that. So you're still doing the same thing at different weights. So I can't respect that. When you're not going up there, we know he's not going to go up to cruiserweight and fight Lawrence or Coley, right? We know that. Huh? He's not going to go to 175 and fight Artur Beterbiev. We know that. Mm-hmm. So how can we give him the true credit that is earned from history of men who stepped in to face the quality of challenges that were available and accessible to him? He's actually doing the opposite thing. And they are overpaying him for doing it. How about that?
Damn. Arturo?
Well, I can't say that he's not going to fight them. So, I mean, it's an assumption that he would not fight Artur Beterbiev. So that's all I really got to say as far as him going up and not fighting the best. When he went to 168, I mean, he fought the ones with the titles. Whether or not there was other, like Benavidez, he hasn't fought him yet. But again, that was my choice. That was my second choice as far as when we were talking about the best 168s when he went up. So I think this will end up kind of circling back around. But I feel like Charlo would be a good fight. If he goes up to 175 and he fights Bivol, that's to set up and try to go undisputed. I do think that Artur Beterbiev will beat Joe Smith. Even not saying that Joe Smith doesn't have a chance. I just feel like he would beat him, and then that fight would be set up to unify the titles. But I think he will fight Artur.
Well, let me just highlight this comment right here. I want Canelo to fight Charlo so these haters will stop saying he ducks black fighters. So, exactly.
Do you not think it's a little unfair, though? Because people are criticizing Canelo's resume, but all the people that are on that list, their resumes are, in comparison, are non-existent. There's Benavidez, Charlo, and even Bivol. They've done next to nothing compared to Canelo, who's kind of blazed through several different divisions, fought so many champions, unified. I mean, these other guys, they're like almost doing nothing.
But that's why I'm kind of baffled why he don't fight them if he hasn't fought nobody. And that's the issue. If Charlo and Andrade and Benavidez haven't fought nobody, why does Canelo just fight them and just get rid of them?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the issue right there.
Yeah, but do you not find the issue that maybe these fighters should also fight each other as well, not just wait around for Canelo, like try and build their own legacies as well?
I disagree with that. That doesn't make any damn sense.
No, I'm saying a lot of fans are harsh on Canelo's resume, even though he's got the best. I'm not really criticizing the other fighters like Benavidez or Bivol or Charlo, who have done, in comparison, next to nothing.
So, here's a question. Let's just say theoretically, if Charlo and Benavidez and Andrade all fight each other, and let's
Hmm.
just say Charlo won all three of those fights, and Andrade won one against Benavidez, and Benavidez won, let's just say one against Andrade. Either or, depending how the outcome goes. Does that still give credibility for Canelo to still fight him, regardless if they have certain losses?
Sure, because Canelo himself isn't undefeated. I just meant maybe if these guys mixed it up, they would differentiate themselves. Because there's not really that much of a difference between fighting Benavidez or Charlo or Bivol because all of their resumes are pretty weak.
There is such a thing as fighters being avoided too. That does exist. You know what I mean? We can sit up here all day and talk about, well, maybe they should beef up their resume a little bit more so they earn their shot against Canelo. So to me, that sounds like, okay, so when Andre went to the press conference and said to Canelo, hey, let's get it on, and Canelo said, fuck out of my face, so you're saying that Canelo was right to say that because
No,
Andre
he's
hasn't earned his shot.
See, with Andrade, I think I take more exception to him because I felt like Andrade actually tried to make the big fights. He tried to fight Golovkin, but Golovkin ducked him. He tried to make a fight with Charlo, but Charlo wasn't interested. He's even calling out Benavidez. So I feel like with Andrade, even though, okay, fair enough, he doesn't have the deepest resume, I think he's a little more proactive. Guys like Bivol, Benavidez, and Charlo, they're saying nothing and doing nothing.
Sure. Okay. So, just curious, in your opinion, Jimmy, who has a better resume, Jermall Charlo or Andrade?
160 pounds.
Yeah.
I'd say they're comparable. Selecki, Liam Williams, Akabov, and Charlo, you've got.
I mean, because Jermall Charlo, he's fought Cornelius Brundage, he's fought Austin Trout, he fought Julian Williams. He's. I mean, it's not an astounding resume, but it's not bad. I mean, he's retained his title 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times.
Yep.
Jermall has.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
So,
No, I just meant compared to Canelo's resume, it's not. He might have a better resume than Andrade, or maybe the same. But
yeah, but nobody has a resume compared to Canelo. If you want to get down, that's why he's pound for pound.
So how come he gets
That's
criticized
why he's
the
pound for
most?
pound.
But he gets most of the hate, but the other guys don't really get talked about. And I'm a massive Demetrius Andrade fan, and I think he should get the fight above all these guys. But I just found it kind of strange, though, how fans don't really expect any of these other fighters to do anything.
So you're saying that you find it odd or strange that we criticize Canelo for not fighting people when other fighters below him are not fighting each other? Is that your case?
No, I meant like he's fighting like sort of at 168. He became undisputed in 11 months. Before that, he fought Triple G, Sergei Kovalev, Danny Jacobs. I thought Danny Jacobs at that time was the number 2 middleweight. Guys like Benavidez. I mean, he really hasn't done anything. I think Charlo's got a better resume than Benavidez. To be fair, 2-division champion. He's got some good names. But even him compared to Canelo is not really that deep. So would you not say fans put extra heat on Canelo compared to the rest of the fighters?
Stormy, you want to jump in on that?
What is it you'd like me to comment on?
Well, Jimmy's saying that, it seems like Canelo's getting a lot of heat for not fighting certain fighters, but yet, there are fighters that, are wanting the Canelo fight, but yet they're not fighting each other to earn their right to demand the fights with Canelo.
Well, Abdir Yildirim didn't earn much of anything, did he? But he still got an opportunity. Huh?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
when you go over there, Smith, over there in the UK, the Smith brothers actually, what did they earn? Huh? And then at the same time, we're talking about a group of fighters who were all at one time right there with one another. And it could have been an opportunity for them to round robin and fight one another. But he moved away from those guys who were the equivalent. Let's understand one thing. Canelo has like 60 fights or something, right? But who were the bulk of those fighters that he fought to pad those numbers? You're actually seeing and witnessing just this past weekend, Jaime Munguia is doing the same thing. Kid's got almost 40 fights, but who the hell is he fighting? Okay. Now, the moment that he gets in with one of these guys you're talking about tonight, that'll be a challenge for him. And that doesn't mean that I don't think he can beat someone. I'm just saying when you have men who are head and shoulders above average and they don't face one another, and someone moves away from that stock and continues to fight people that he's head and shoulders above, but never faced those same guys that were of that ilk, I can't put much of a separation between them when I'm looking at things realistically. They have pushed Canelo into a place where he is now the face of the sport. Listen, the powers that be do that all the time. That doesn't mean he's the best. I've seen guys go through people and prove they're the best and still don't get respect. So the machine works when they want to endorse someone. You've seen them show Vasily Lomachenko's face on the television screen where they erased his loss on his record. What does that do to a person looking at it and they say, oh, that guy's undefeated, who doesn't really follow the sport like we do? They're lying to you. And that was not a mistake. Those are not the type of mistakes they make. The type of mistakes that they make is putting someone out there telling you that they're really good when they're not, getting a machine behind them, and give decisions in matches when a person didn't earn a victory. And what happens is when you do that, it doesn't force the individual who truly loses to go back to the gym, brush up on his skill set, and try to get better and come back and improve and show their wares the next go out. So we're looking at this. And like you heard me say in my last comment, Canelo is being tremendously overpaid now for beating up on guys he wants to fight, not guys who he should fight. That's something.
Very good
there's
point.
Something terribly wrong in the sport with that.
Very good point.
I
wonder what the conversation would be if Canelo didn't get the nod against Austin Trout. He didn't get the nod against Lara. He didn't get the nod against Golovkin in the first fight. What would the conversation be like? Because I think what we're really talking about is, to Stormy's point, he did get those nods, especially Lara and Golovkin, the first fight. I won't throw Austin Trout in there, but definitely Lara and the first fight against Triple G. It's hard not to argue that he didn't get those nods because of who he is.
Yeah. But I'm not 100% sure if... I think Andrade would beat Lara because I think he's better. But I'm not sure if Jermall Charlo would beat Erislandy Lara. Or, like, say, someone like a David Benavidez. He's never fought anyone of that ilk. So I know Stormy B did make a good point about how, certain fighters at Yildirim didn't deserve... Well, I think he was a mandatory, but like a Rocky Fielding, he didn't deserve the opportunity. But my only point was that is a fair criticism, but I feel like more blame should be passed around because there was no round robin at 160 when Canelo left because he unified 3 of the belts and then left. At 168, they never mixed it up. Canelo went up there and collected all the belts. So there really isn't a round robin unless Canelo is doing all the work.
My deal is this. I mean, who do we want to see him fight? It's not about, like, he picking out people that, do we really want to see him fight Bivol over Charlo? Or Benavidez, do we really want to see that? He pick out people that he wants to fight, not what the fans want to see him fight, who he wants to fight. And I think that's the issue. Like certain beat man said, he just collecting checks on whatever he feel like doing. And
I think the only person Canelo did duck was Andrade because this is the second time he's come back to negotiations.
I'm not talking about ducking. I'm talking about who we want to watch fight. He left 160 with a franchise belt. So, I mean, he can say he does Charlo, though, too, at that. So, I'm just trying to say, we don't want to... Honestly, I don't want to see him fight Bivol. It might be a good fight, but I want to see him fight Charlo
Who do you think
or
is better
Benavidez or
stylistically?
Andrade. I want to see him fight them people. Because that's who he's supposed to fight in the weight classes, and he left. Now he's going
Right,
up and down,
exactly.
up and down.
Exactly.
No, I think
Check,
Charlo's a much
check
easier
this
fight
out,
than
Divine.
Bivol.
Before Caleb Plant, name. I think you might have the list up in front of you, or you can pull it up quickly. Name the 4 previous fighters that Canelo fought before Caleb Plant.
So a guy called
Starting from most recent, Billy Joe.
Yeah. Before Caleb, go back 4 names. Give us the
Yep.
4 names of the last 4 guys he fought.
Yep. Billy Joe, Yildirim, Callum Smith, Sergey Kovalev.
Okay, now take Demetrius Andrade and Jermall Charlo, and how do you think those 2 men fare against those 4 names you just ran off?
I think Andre beats all 4 of them.
And Charlo?
Charlo would win. Charlo would win 3 out of the 4, for sure.
Okay, but understand that Kovalev had come off of a tough fight with short time in between against Yard, right?
Yep.
So Kovalev was the most vulnerable. So if that might be the guy that you think that Charlo would have a hard time against, think again. Because Charlo is better than Anthony Yard. But what I'm getting at is I'm trying to get you guys to see my point that I made, that I said a moment ago. There was a time when these men were all right there neck and neck with one another at 160 pounds, 154, whatever you want to call it. And these are the men he opted not to fight. And because he moved away from the pack and started doing other things, look at those names that he fought in 4 fights, okay, before Caleb Plant. So you're trying to tell me he has earned this nebulous respect that he hasn't commanded. You command that when you fight these men who are right there, head and shoulders like you are above the rest of the competition. You don't move away from them and start building a new structure saying, see, I'm better. How do I know that? They're pretty darn good too. Get in there with them. I am not in favor of anyone. I am in favor of the sport of boxing, producing. But it won't produce when fanboys and people who don't have the gumption because of they want to support something with an angle, whether it's nationality, whether it's like ethnic pride and all of that foolishness. It's an international sport, man. Somebody hitting a bag in a gym right now can come up and whoop all of these guys that we're talking about, and we haven't even heard of them yet. You understand? So that's how the sport of boxing really is. But if someone is working a machine to give you the focal point and say, look at here, this is the one to watch and everything, that is foolishness, because I know what my eyes see. Canelo could possibly get in there with these guys now and they fall apart because he has this machine behind him, and that may intimidate them. But there was a time when that didn't exist like it does now. He put his pants on just like everybody else. You heard Caleb Plant in that 9th round tell him, hey, I'm not too bad for a guy that's 22-0, 23-0, whatever his record was going in there with. And I mean, really? You're in the 9th round against this guy and you're trying to win a title, become undisputed. And that's what your thought process is?
Right.
You're a mental midget, brother.
Oh, yeah.
There's something wrong with that.
Oh, man said mental midget. Oh, man. Look, I think at the end of the day, like, I think the point that we're trying to drill in is give the fans what they want to see. Forget all of this. Oh, but they haven't fought anybody. Like, look, at the end of the day, Charlo's up there in the top 2 or 3. Andrade's up there. He's climbing the ranks. He's in the top 3 or 4. And it's guys that you could have fought at 160 and you didn't fight them. You simply didn't fight him. And you're moving up and fighting Kovalev. When he fought Kovalev, that was a Charlo opportunity. That was an Andrade opportunity. And like Stormy said, you're going up there and basically beating up a busted up Kovalev. And the world praised you for that. Oh, he beat the big almighty Kovalev. But people forgot about this dude just came out of a war against a lesser fighter in comparison to Charlo. Do we all agree that Charlo would have beat that, what's his name, Yard or whatever his name is? We all agree on that, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, Yard was slow. He was strong.
I mean, to be honest, the way Charlo looked against Montiel, who's kind of like a welterweight journeyman, I'm not sure if he beat Sergey Kovalev. Sergey Kovalev, was a light heavyweight champion. He could punch, good boxing skills. I'm okay with the Charlo fight, although I'd prefer someone like Demetrius Andrade or like an Artur Beterbiev. But I mean, I don't really rate Charlo that highly, to be honest.
It's something around Divine Senses camera.
Okay. Has it crashed?
In a little bit. I'll say this about the Kovalev fight too. When Kovalev fought Canelo Alvarez, one thing I noticed about him in the entire fight before the stoppage, he never looked like he was trying to hurt Canelo. He never looked like he was throwing punches with bad intentions. He never looked like he was trying to take Canelo's head off. And his jab, which was usually a pretty decent, strong jab, he looked like a kid when they try to touch the stove to see if the stove
He
is
even
hot,
throw the jab.
pulling the hand back before it really lands. There was something awfully funny about the Kovalev fight. He had these outside of the ring issues that were really running rampant in his life due to his fault. And he needed a payday because he had to pay off people so to keep his butt out of jail. Now, I could imply that maybe he took this fight and maybe he took a knee because it served him. And guess what? That's exactly what the hell it looked like. I've watched a lot of boxing in my life. There are people who won't say what I say, but I know what I see when I look at it. And it stank the whole time.
Plus, also, Kovalev said, like, I'm not sure if it's true, but Blue Blood exposed Kovalev, saying in a Instagram comment section, stating that that fight wasn't, like a, how should I say, it wasn't like a fair fight from the beginning. It was like a fixed fight. So I want to believe Kovalev, Kovalev's words of him stating to say that he didn't come into that fight thinking that he was going to win, and he basically kind of just set it up as a fix to take a dive against Canelo. So
I mean, to be fair, Kovalev does have a history of being a sore loser. So when Andre Wood beat him twice, he was always crying and complaining. Same when he lost to Storm Alvarez. I mean, he does have a history of being a sore loser. And his character, I mean, Sergey Kovalev's character is, you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know about that. I think under Buddy McGirt, he had more of a reserve style. Because he was a bit older, so he probably wanted to reserve his gas tank. I think.
Yeah, also...
it was a tough fight as well. It was a tough fight for Canelo. Some people thought it was, he was down on the cards before the stoppage.
Let us take a walk down memory lane for a moment. There was a rematch fight that took place with Tim Witherspoon, who had some issues with Don King, financial issues. And the fight was for the heavyweight title, he and Bone Crusher Smith. Tim Witherspoon, who has taken punches from the likes of Frank Bruno and Ray Mercer and big time punchers out there, right? He went down 3 times in the first round against Bone Crusher Smith in a fight that saw Bone Crusher become the heavyweight champion. But when the fight was waved off after the 3rd knockdown, Witherspoon kind of got up and wiped his nose and went back to his corner and put his head down. But he didn't even look hurt at all. Many years later, and Witherspoon is out here on the public airwaves now, so you can see him out here. He's been on with Bruce Gold and Drew Titan and people. He's been out here. He said he took a dive in that fight because of everything he was dealing with Don King. He just didn't feel any motivation to try to fight for the heavyweight title. And he allowed Bone Crusher Smith to become the WBA heavyweight champion in that fight. And his effort was lackluster. It didn't look like his heart and soul was in it. He didn't look like his head was in it. And it was over in 1 round. Sergey Kovalev fought 11 rounds against Canelo the same kind of way. This is why I tell you, when I say what I say, I know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at it. And the man at no point in the fight looked like he was trying to hurt Canelo Alvarez. At no point. You have to question a person, especially a person with questionable character like he, but at the same time, you look at his performance. Look at the other men he's fought and the effort that he's put out. You have to hold these guys accountable. And as long as you want to put the dark shades on or paint the lenses in your glasses black where you don't see anything, this is what it's going to be. But that all being said, they're not going to fool me.
I see this guy, Dickie Two Guns, in here talking about we hating and the hate is real and thumbs down, this and that. Well, the link is in the chat, bro. If you want to come in and leave your thoughts.
Give way to ignorance. That's all that is. You see, because I just gave an example. I drew from history. There's nothing hateful about that. I said, I support the sport of boxing, not the individual. Dickie Two Guns, put your guns in your holster, sit down and listen. You might learn something if you open your mind.
I don't understand how it's hating when we're simply saying that we want Canelo to fight the people that the fans want him to fight. Who the hell out here talking about, oh, we want to see Canelo fight Bivol? Who the fuck been saying that? I don't hear any fans saying that except dick riders. Who out here saying we want to see a 3rd fight against Triple G? What are they gonna say if he knocks out Triple G? Oh, you finally knocked him out. It took you 3 fights and he's 40 years old. Congratulations.
Personally, Divine, if he gets in there with Triple G, I believe that this would have been the ploy the entire time. See, you can't fool me with this. He pretended to not be interested in a Triple G fight just a few years ago when he first went to the zone and all of that. Remember that?
I remember that.
It was like he was saying, I don't want to fight that guy again. Forget him, blah, blah, blah. Now, all of a sudden, the guy is Mr. Geritol, and here comes the possibility that you may consider it. Dude, we're 6 years removed from any significance, and the man hasn't even done anything.
Right.
But you want to entertain that while you have other live bodies available that you can get in there with. This is the thing when I talk about accountability, and these networks are going to pay him handsomely for it. I'm not in their wallets. I don't care. But what I'm saying is, if he's allowed to come back and forth throughout the sport, pick this guy over there and that guy over there, and they're going to pay him this exorbitant amount of purse to perform in fights that he's favored highly. When is the last time he faced someone where you said, I don't know about this one. So-and-so may have a chance. I'll wait.
Yep. And for those of you guys don't know, Triple G hasn't fought in 13 months. Sorry, 14. So, like, the fact that that's even being constructed as an idea is a clear indication that there are extreme Canelo dick riders, period. Because I tell you what, I have certain fighters that I'm fans of in the sport. And if, let's say, for example, I'm a fan of Earl Spence. Earl Spence about to fight Ugas. That's a win. No, it's not Bud, but that's a win. Ugas is a credible opponent, right? But if Earl Spence, even though I'm a fan of him, said, oh, you know what, man, I'm going to fight the number 12 guy because, you know, I got an eye injury and, you know, I want to feel things out a little bit before I fight Bud or Ugas. As a Spence fan, I'm going to say, you on that bullshit. You on that bullshit, Spence. So I don't play this game of like, oh, we out here hating on Canelo. How we hating on him? I don't understand where the hate is. And ever since I called you out, Mr. Dickie Guns or whatever the fuck you say, you disappeared. But look, I'm just getting tired, man. And there's channels out here too, unfortunately, content creators. They're peeking through the bushes and the blinds, as Stormy likes to say. And they be watching and they're lurking. And there's, look at this guy. He keeps talking shit about Canelo. Look at him. Look at him. They hating on Canelo. Can't they just be proud of Canelo and what he's done? We ain't hating when we spit facts. Fact does not equal hate. I mean, it is what it is. The man had Andrade and Charlo in 160 when he was in 160. He didn't want to fight him. He moved up and fought Kovalev, a busted up Kovalev. How was that hate? It ain't hate. And if you're okay with that, you're a dick rider. Period. Kovalev was busted up, man. And the world praised him for that. For moving up and fighting him when it's like, man, you know, I can really set this ablaze. Did we forget that Andre Ward beat Kovalev twice? And the second time, it wasn't even close. It was a destruction. Right? And so all of a sudden, but he's still credible because, you know, at one point in time, he was the crusher, right? He's the guy who can out-punch the puncher. He can out-punch. He's bigger than Canelo. Man, the dude was damaged goods. Period, point blank. Right, at the tail end of his career. I mean, how old was he when he fought Canelo? Damn near in his 40s, right?
36.
36, okay. So, late 30s, going into his late 30s. So, for me, it's like I'm tired of this Canelo. Let me rephrase that. I don't mind if you're a Canelo fan. We've got Arturo in here. And you support the man and his career and the things that he's accomplished in the sport, and you're a fan. I don't have any problem with that. But then when you come in here and start talking about, oh, you're hating because you're just upset that he won't fight the people that you want to fight and you're never satisfied, well, just be happy for the man. I'll be happy for any boxer when they do the right things, when they fight the fights that the people want to see him fight. Nobody's talking about Bivol. And if they are, if there's channels out here saying, oh, I think Bivol's a great fight, then I question your sanity and I question your true passion and love for the sport. What gain is it for Canelo to fight and beat Bivol? What gain is there other than, oh, he gets another belt? But to Stormy B-Man's point, he's not even the top guy and in that division. Better Beef is, and Better Beef got 2 belts. So if you're going to move up, huh?
No, I said he's about to get 3 once he beats Joe Smith. Yep.
Right. So, I mean, if you're going to move up, damn, at least fight the top guy, the best guy in the division. So anybody out there talking about, I think Bivol's a great fight, like I said, I'm sorry. You're more than just a fan. That is not a great fight for anybody but for Canelo himself, because he gets to claim a belt. Oh, I moved up, and some of you guys are going to eat that up. Right? But at the end of the day, like I said many times on this live, I can say I want to see Andrade over Charlo, but I think it's pretty clear that Andrade is not in the conversation because Canelo simply doesn't have any interest. At least we have a little bit of interest from Canelo's side and his team to get Charlo. So I'm going to ride with that. So you fight Charlo, you silence the critics, and your support, and you satisfy your supporters, because the supporters want you to silence the critics. So it works both ways. And I tell you this right now for the record. Once Canelo finally makes a decision, because it's been a merry-go-round for the past like 2 or 3 weeks, he can't make up his damn mind. I don't know what's so damn difficult about it. But anyway, once he finally does make his mind up and he decides to fight Bivol, you best believe I will set his ass ablaze. If he says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and fight Charlo, I'm going to give the fans what they want to see, then I will come in here and I'll give him his respect for finally fighting Charlo, which is something that we wanted to see at 160 for a long time. Thank you, Canelo. But that is yet to be seen. And so, once again, as boxing fans, we're playing the waiting game. Sitting here, waiting, and wondering. Raw Dog the Prophet in the building. What's good? Good to see you. I see Deanna Branch in there, too. Always good to see you in the live chat. So, you know, somebody said here in the comments, and I forgot to highlight it, but he said that at some point, all this cherry picking and all this hopscotching and moving around weight divisions, it's going to catch up to Canelo. And one day, it's going to be a cherry picking gone wrong situation. Like Stormy said, there's guys out there hitting the bag right now that we don't even know about that has extreme talent that can beat any of these guys we're talking about. That's the way the sport of boxing works. So the funny thing is, you say, well, Divine, what's your point? My point is this. If you're going to get beat by someone like Andrade or Charlo, then people say, well, he stepped in the ring and fought the guy that the fans wanted to see. He fought a top guy in the middleweight or super middleweight division, whatever division may be. And, you know, fighters take losses. But if you go jumping around and fight, like, imagine if Bivol knocks out Canelo. That's a cherry pick gone wrong. Right? So if you're going to take the risks, at least take the risk that where the fans literally said, this is what this is the fight that we want you to take, and if you lose, we still going to love you because you took that risk and you did what the fans wanted you to do. By fighting Bivol and getting knocked out, people are saying like, well, shit, you deserved it. You deserve that. Right? So, I don't know, man. We'll have to see what Canelo ends up deciding to do. But I just wanted to come out here.
Yeah, Divine, I just wanted to ask you something, mate. Do you actually see the Bivol fight as one-sided? Because against Kovalev, I'll be honest, Canelo did struggle quite a bit, and Bivol's probably got quicker feet, a better engine, and a sharper jab at this point. A lot of people do think Kovalev was broken down. Bivol's a lot younger, faster, better engine than Bivol. Could he not kind of possess those same problems for Canelo? Use a long jab, quick feet, much better engine, he's faster. Probably physically stronger at this point as well than someone like a Kovalev who gave him a lot of trouble.
I mean, Kovalev gave him a bit of trouble early, but it disintegrated very quickly.
Yeah, but Bivol having a better
very quickly. But so what I'm saying is,
for you think Canelo would destroy Bivol?
No. What I'm saying is that if it comes down to a conversation on who I think will win the fight between Canelo and Bivol, that's a different conversation. The fact of the matter is, nobody wants to see that fight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
So
the
we-
point.
No,
Like, right, I'm
I'll
not
bring
saying Bivol.
something out. I'll
It's
bring
not that.
something
It's
out.
not that Bivol doesn't have a chance. And I just said that Bivol can knock out Canelo. That could happen. And if that happens, it is cherry picking gone wrong. There is no like glorious defeat in that situation when you could have fought somebody that the fans actually wanted you or actually wanted to see you fight.
Yep.
Check this out. I talked about this last night on the show we did, and I talked about it Sunday morning as well. One of the things that the PTB, the powers that be, do is create the illusion of what you're looking at. Now, there is a younger fighter on the cusp right now whose name isn't being associated with Canelo's at all, but his name is being associated with Triple G, which I find that's very odd. It could be associated with Triple G, but not Canelo. And that's Jaime Munguia, who is the other young guy that they're grooming for a certain demographic for the sport of boxing, because as I stated before, and I'll reiterate, they do not want those two to cancel each other out because there's a certain base that they want to have continue to invest their interest in the sport of boxing. But it's good business for them to fight because Canelo has been a long-standing guy and Munguia is the young guy coming up, okay? And it makes very good boxing sense for him to give Jaime a shot. But you remember years ago, he said he's not going to fight any more Mexican fighters. I wonder why that is. The fact that you have other Mexican fighters, and the wonderful thing about Mexican fights, if you've seen this card over the weekend, there was some good bouts going on. And on the undercard, there was some guys who were really giving wholehearted efforts. The point being is this. Canelo don't want no problems, bro. A young fighter fighting him of his own nationality is going to do their best against him.
Benavidez.
And Jaime Munguia is not a pushover. He's a talented young man. And to be perfectly honest, from the Mexican fighting style perspective, he has that type of style that would give Canelo problems. So I wonder why the PTB doesn't put the two men's names together. If you happen to mention them in a paragraph, that creates a subliminal message of, yeah, maybe they should fight, let alone put them together in a sentence discussing matchmaking because they don't want them to cancel one another out. But someone has to do the dirty work. Now, I've not spoken about David Benavidez, okay? He's in a total different group here because that man threw away his opportunity 2 times.
On the scale.
Okay? But Jaime Munguia should be fighting Jermall Charlo, Demetrius Andrade, Canelo Alvarez. Yeah. I put him in there too because you know why? He is showing us he may have something. How do we prove it? Put him in there against those guys that we're just talking about, just like I was saying the same thing about Canelo. Now, am I hating on Jaime Munguia? Or am I trying to present an opportunity for us to find out if he's the goods or not? If he's successful against the veterans that we're talking about, that means that he's better than them and he can go further, higher, faster. Hey, that's what we want, right? But Canelo, don't let him get away. I'm telling you. They're already dishing that money out, and he think he can get away with these things. But when you talk about boxing from the proper perspective, you nail them each and every time. especially if you know what you're talking about.
And Stormy, to solidify your point, the last time Canelo Alvarez fought a fellow Mexican fighter was Alfredo Angulo back in 2014. A guy, and if anybody says, well, yeah, it's been a while, but Alfredo was pretty good. Alfredo Angulo with 8 losses. Come on, man. 7 years since he fought a fellow Mexican fighter. Which is ironic, right? Because if you fight a fellow Mexican, that's a natural pay-per-view sell. So that's a very interesting point that Stormy just brought up. I didn't even think about that. When the last time he fought his own fellow countryman?
Yeah, man. What I don't get about the zone is why they're not trying to offer Demetrius Andrade as part of the package, because I know a lot of fans say no one knows Andrade, but compared to Dimitri Bivol, I'd say Andrade is like a rock star, because surely he must have a bigger profile in America than a Russian. And Bivol, like, he's not even that big in Russia. So for me, it's a bit confusing. Like, why would you not offer Demetrius Andrade in the 2-fight deal? He's got a way bigger profile in America and even around the world for someone like a Bivol. It's just weird.
It's not weird, Jimmy. It's the threat of what is not comfortable and favorable to him. That's how Canelo operates. You know, that's not a true champion. That's an opportunist. You have to know the difference. A champion will go out and defend his honor, his championship position against any and all comers. Okay? An opportunist is looking for the best deal that's favorable for him with least risk and also the highest opportunity for economic empowerment.
Yep. Because people are saying
this
that,
has nothing to do with promotional companies. This has nothing to do with why aren't they promoting Andrade better? Why aren't they putting Andrade's name in the conversation? As far as promotional companies are concerned, this is all Canelo. This is all 100% Canelo. He basically goes to his team and says, well, what's out there? Okay, we'll give you 10 names, let's say, for argument's sake. And Canelo says, all right, let's take 4 off that table. And right now, it is Triple G, Bivol, Charlo, and Benavidez. That's it. That's all Canelo wants. And I guarantee you, out of those 10 names that were thrown on the table by his team, Andrade was definitely a part of that. How could he not be?
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's Canelo. Canelo's like, nah, I'm good with that right now. These are the 4 names that I'm going to consider because, again, Charlo has to move up to 168.
Yep.
Right? So he's thinking, he's got to move up to my weight class, which I've been at. I'm more experienced, and I see some flaws in Charlo. I think I can expose them. Bivol, I got to move up, but once again, I'm bringing a lot of experience in there against a guy who is not the number 1 in the division, by the way, but he's got a strap. And then, you got Benavidez, which, I think that's probably the least on his list, just given the fact that Benavidez and his size, being, a fellow Mexican fighter who we know he's going to bring it. And that's a tough stylistic matchup for Canelo, in my opinion. So really, it comes down to right now, and of course you got Triple G, right? So those are the 4 names. But for me right now, I think the 2 names that he's got to decide on is Bivol and Charlo. I don't think that as much as Canelo makes poor decisions, I think when it comes to pick and fight sometimes, I don't think he'll take the risk of fighting Triple G a 3rd time, personally. Because I think he understands that by beating him, it doesn't really prove much because, quite frankly, Triple G is just not the same fighter. He hasn't fought in more than a year. So there's no gain, really, other than closing a trilogy, but that's about it. So, really, it's Charlo
Divine,
and Bivol
when
at this
you
point.
say that, you're not thinking about Canelo and how he's operating. I told you, the way he behaved a few years ago after their 2nd fight, like he was never interested in fighting the guy again. I thought that was all smoke and mirrors. I personally believe, and have said this a few times over, that the ploy may have been this the whole time. to age the man out where he could possibly get a stoppage over the guy. See, that's the thing, getting a stoppage, and they're going to pay him handsomely for it. It's almost like it's a game of charades. They're playing games with people's boxing psyche. You don't see it coming, but you do, but you don't. You understand? And that's what they're doing.
So,
what
Stormy,
I
let me
just
ask you,
said a moment ago. If
where do you
if-
think
if
Canelo's leaning? then?
Canelo,
Where do you think he's
hold
leaning
on a
towards?
second. If Canelo were to say, "Forget it, give me Demetrius Andrade," and they signed and they fought, and it was a tough fight for him, but he edged it out, or if it was a tough fight for him, and Demetrius edges it out, I would take my hat off to Canelo and salute him for fighting the guy. You understand? Because that's a person that I would like to see him challenged by. That's
Right.
no more. I'm not sitting up here hoping that Andre beats up Canelo. I want to see the two men against each other because they're really the best at their weight class right now. And
Right.
all this talk about he's a horrible fighter and all of that. Dude, I've watched you fight horrible fighter after horrible fighter. What the hell are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
This man has a decorated amateur career. He has a decorated professional career, and you're trying to son him, but his skills say he's on your level. Prove us
Yeah.
wrong. That's it.
And to that point, who's better, Liam Smith or Andrade? Who's better, Rocky Fielding or Andrade? Who's better, Callum Smith or Andrade? Who's better, Yildirim or Andrade?
Yeah.
Just right there. I just rolled off like 4 or 5 names.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So that's that's not hating. That is not hating. That is simply saying there's better talent in the division, and you're not facing that better talent. You're fighting talent that is lesser than what is available. That's what we're saying.
And if your media personalities that are working for those networks would stand up and say the things that I'm saying, because notice that I haven't said nothing favorable for either fighter. I've said what's favorable for the sport. If they would just get on television and say these type of things, then it wouldn't allow for fanboys and people who have agendas and everything to have voices in this. You won't give people an opportunity to start talking about purses and A sides and B sides. People will talk about this is a damn good fight that they're trying to make here. And the fighters will feel the heat of that and say, you know what? Damn it, I'm good. Bring him on. You okay? And that's all we ask of. And sometimes you get in there and it's easier than you thought. And you become victorious, not because you defeated the guy, but you overcame yourself. The apprehension that you show that you don't want to test yourself, but you want that damn money. Huh? Well, you know what? You can't reach for the bag until you ball your fist up and have the gloves on them.
And guess what? I want everybody to know this too. When Canelo decided to fight Kovalev, Andrade was available.
Yeah.
He just come off a victory, right? And he was available. He fought Kovalev in he fought Kovalev in November, and Andrade just finished the fight in June. So he could have easily fought Andrade if he wanted to. He was available.
Divine,
and at that point in
check this
time,
out.
Andrade
Check
was
this
27 and 0.
You
Check
guys
this
here
out.
read the reports that apparently the Bivol fight is not going to be at 175. So what they're going to do is Canelo's going to put his belts on the line. So is Bivol, but it's at 168. So Bivol's going to come down to fight Canelo. But both of the belts will be on the line. So if Canelo beats Bivol, he's going to win the 175 belt and keep his own. And if Bivol wins, it's the same. So the titles will be on the line, but it'll be at 168.
which is even worse, which is even more despicable.
Check this out. When David Benavidez beat Darrell, beat him on that cut and everything, whatever. Time passed. Darrell made a comeback fight. On the very same night that Darrell was fighting, Canelo fought Yildirim. Okay? Now, when he was fighting Yildirim, that was the night that Darrell fought on a different network, and they delayed Canelo's ring entrance till the Darrell fight was over. Okay? Now, why didn't Canelo fight Darrell? He was there. It's a name in the sport that's respectable, and nobody's thinking that Darrell would just go in there and beat Canelo. He's an aging fighter himself, but he's not yet 40. But the whole point of it is that was a better opponent than Yildirim. Okay? So when you're talking about putting men in the ring, they were on the same, what do they call it, schedule of when they were going to fight. It was a better fight for him. And he didn't take a fight like that. Why? Because he wants fights where he's favored and he has the most higher percentage to not only be victorious, but can optimize the money that they're paying him, because they're going to make certain that he gets that lion's share, but there's no one to threaten that. And that's what you don't like about the sport of boxing, because I would have rather seen Canelo on that night fighting Darrell. Okay? And he more than likely would win.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a cakewalk, but you would see a better fight. Why do we keep getting these matches where guys are like assured a victory on paper? You don't question anything going in. Oh, Boots Ennis is going to fight this dude, Delorme. Okay, well, he's going to knock him out in a few rounds, and it happens. Well, it's like, when are we going to see a guy in a fight where it's like, I don't know. I need to see it.
It sure as hell would have been a better fight instead of a 3-round stoppage that he got against Yildirim.
How many punches did Yildirim throw that night? I don't think he threw 15 or 20. I don't think he threw that many.
I don't know.
He was there to go down.
And continue to build Canelo.
I think they'll pay him like $50 million or whatever it is to fight anyone. So I think at that point it kind of becomes like there's not really any incentive, I guess, in it to fight anyone special or dangerous, because the networks are just going to pay him whatever he wants to fight whoever he wants. So it doesn't really become, I guess, really much of a difference. So who he fights, because he's going to get paid the same amount of money, I guess.
But see, if the fighter who really wants him or wants to take what he has, and we're not talking about money here, we're talking about his lofty position. If I wanted his position when I get on the mic, that's what I'm saying. You guys are paying this guy, overpaying him with all this money to fight janitors. Okay, it's time for him to come to the kitchen where the real heat is, right here with me. What's so hard about saying that? These guys are running around kissing his ass, talking about, oh yeah, he's the #1 fighter in the world, and he's a great fighter, and this and that. But nobody's talking about, and then they might say something like, oh, he's ducking me. But when they do that, it's not a believable statement coming from them. The Charlos have been known to sit ringside at his fights and praise him and worship him. Huh? Start fights with fans in the stands and everything, because the whole thing of it is that he's their hero. They look up to him. What happened to looking up for yourself? Huh?
That's why I always wanted the Boo Boo fight over Charlo, because when Boo Boo pulled up in the press conferences, he was ready to get disrespectful. With Jermall Charlo, I feel like he's more of a bit of a fanboy, and just stylistically, he's not. I always wanted the Demetrius Andrade fight, but I don't think it'll ever happen though. So I guess we'll just take what's available.
Well,
I was
Deanna
telling
Francis,
someone the other day.
maybe one day Canelo's fans actually might wake up and get tired of it. Well, unfortunately, Deanna, the only way that I see that happening is if it's a cherry pick go wrong. That's the only
I
way
was
where they
telling
might say,
someone the other day. I said that this is going to pass. What we're seeing in the sport of boxing right now, just like it came on the scene, it lasts for a few years and then it'll go away. It's going to be the same. We're going to have this forever. How long else it's going to last? But you're going to see a different change. You're going to see a shift. It's going to get back to people who want legacy, people who want to fight for more. But you know why? Because as this era currently fades away, they're going to be looking at these guys and nobody's going to want to talk about them. Nobody's going to want to give them credit. Nobody's going to say, hey, you remember so-and-so? What a great fight that was. What trilogy that was. Because these guys aren't even fighting. Dude, who's fighting trilogies outside of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury? Nobody.
Yep.
Because you know why? They're fighting all of these fights that are guaranteed victories for the so-called house fighter or A-side fighter. No one's fighting any challenged matches. They're not testing themselves, not testing or challenging their own wills. So this era will pass, mind you. It will. And it'll get back to people fighting with purpose. You have to understand that we've gone through various eras in the history of the sport, and it will happen again. But I'll tell you one thing, this will probably be the forgotten era of boxing with these guys. It makes absolutely no sense. They're all despicable. And, you know, I can't wait for their eras and times to pass. How many fighters have you seen throughout history let a bulk of their career go by when they've had a prime where they did nothing? Now they're aging and they're thinking about doing something, and then it passes when they hit the 40s or something and they still did nothing. Manny Pacquiao did more in his 30s to his 40s than these guys will have done for their career.
Yep.
And it's a shame.
And he fought one man 4 times.
It's despising. And I'll tell you this, stop giving these guys heaps of praise and all of that, powdering their asses and putting Pampers on them, and talk about them like I talk about them. Because that's the way you get rid of this stuff. Stop ridiculing it and speak up and say the real stuff. Because when you say that, yeah, they can get mad. What they gonna do? Prove me wrong.
Exactly.
Prove me wrong. Tank Davis is a guy out there. He's letting them mismanage his career. They can take the training wheels off of that guy, and he can go out there and be a real superstar. But they're trying to control his career in a direction that they think will be best for him. Let that young man fight. He's talented. He can get people out of there, which people pay money to see knockouts. Okay? And that's what he does very well. Stop trying to turn him into Floyd Mayweather, because that's not who he is.
Yep.
He's a what do they call those race horses? A stallion. You gotta let him do his thing.
You gotta let him run. Let him run.
Keeping him in the damn barnyard. Oh, isn't he pretty? Huh? Open that fence and let him run that damn field for them acres.
Yep. Let the
Stop
wind blow
playing
through the
around.
mane.
That's another example right there.
We're talking about this right now, and in the meantime, nobody trying to fight Devin Haney.
Right. And that's
nobody's trying to fight Devin Haney.
Conversation mentioning Tank's name, it leads to Devin Haney, George Kambosos, Teofimo, all of those guys. They're in the era. They're within a few pounds of each other. They should be fighting.
Right.
And they can make tremendous money fighting each other. And if something goes wrong on a particular night, oh, he got the best of me, have a rematch. Go back to the gym, get yourself in shape, study up a little bit, and come back and get him in a fight or two. Hey, let's do it again. The fans will pay more money. They'll pay double because you had a great one go around.
Stormy, how many times did Ali fight Ken Norton?
3.
There you go.
And they were all razor-thin victories, too, for both men, because Ken got one and Ali got two. But you can honestly say, man, Ken might have got all three.
There you go. That's exactly what we're talking about. So don't play this game with me when it comes to legacy, right? And I spent years and years and years talking about Mayweather and Pacquiao, dissecting their resumes, who's better. This is before they actually fought. But I tell you what, and I was always in favor of Mayweather over Pacquiao, but I'll tell you what right now, Pacquiao is a Hall of Famer for a reason. He fought one man 4 damn times, and it took the 4th time to get his ass knocked out. How many fighters are taking those kinds of risks? When Juan Manuel Marquez kept getting better and better and better every time they fought, until eventually Marquez put him to sleep.
Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta fought 6 times.
6. Willie Pep and Sandy Sadler fought what, 4? 3 or 4?
Man.
Dottie versus Ward, right?
But, you know, and we're not saying that you have to fight a
4.
Yeah, so it's not like we're saying you have to fight the same fighter 3 or 4 times. That's not what we're trying to promote here. But what we are promoting is when you get these close fights, when you at the top level, it's supposed to be close. It's supposed to be.
They won't even
right, and
get
sometimes
in the ring
you get style matchups.
Potentially close.
Yeah, and you get style matches for whatever reason. Ken Norton was a style matchup for Ali that gave Ali problems. Sometimes that happens, but you don't know unless you take those risks. And they had to run it back 3 times. So that's what we're not getting right now. And the bad thing is if Canelo doesn't fight in the mixture of Charlo, Andrade, and these guys, and he ends up going up and conquering these other belts, and then when his career is over, he never fought that mixture of fighters who were 160 at one point, then 168. How could we say, wow, he's really one of the greatest? Stormy, how can we say that? How can we put him in the same conversation of some of these all-time greats that we have been mentioning? We understand now in today's age, we're never going to get 100 fights out of a fighter. We know we're not going to get, the multiple trilogy fights. We know this. We've accepted that because it's a new era. But damn, how you going to leave 2 or 3 talented fighters behind and then expect real boxing fans to accept the fact that or to agree with that type of movement? No, we're not going to agree with it. And it'll be a damn shame if Canelo retires and never fought these talented fighters that are available right now. They're available right now. Charlo is available. Andrade is available. They're ready. 168? Fine, let's go. You want to fight Benavidez at 175? Fine, let's go. But you worried about Bivol. That's what you want to get. You want to get Bivol. But I really do honestly feel like the pressure is starting to mount, though, for Canelo. It really is. I really feel like it's starting to close on all sides, and the criticism is starting to mount up, and that's why he can't make his damn mind up, and Charlo is still on the table. Because otherwise, he would have already signed a deal with Bivol if that wasn't the case. And good. I'm glad he's got pressure. I'm glad he's in a situation like, damn, I better be careful with this one because, I don't need more heat. I had enough heat when I, popped positive for some drugs and shit. I had to go through that. So I don't want some other drama. So let me make the right decision. Good. I'm glad you're in that situation. So for me, it's like, it has nothing to do with hate. And by the way, like I said, myself, I can speak on myself and I can speak on Stormy because I listen to his channel a lot. We are consistent with our criticism and our praise. humble in defeat and humble in victory. We're not isolating and criticizing one particular fighter for whatever reason that people may think it is. Oh, you guys just don't like Canelo because he's redheaded Irish Mexican or whatever the fuck people say. I don't even know why they think we hate him. I don't even know why. They just want to hate on us because we don't ride his dick. That's why.
It's the same bullshit with Terrence Crawford.
Iron Lion, a.k.a. Focus Ball, a.k.a. Mind Body.
What's
different
up, man?
names.
Yeah, I know.
What's good, man? How are you?
I didn't even realize that I put that name up. What's up, fam? I appreciate y'all sending me that link. Sorry I couldn't come through earlier. Salute, Stormy. Who else we got up in here? K-Rod.
Hey, what's up, Healer?
Not familiar with you other guys, but salute to y'all too. What's the topic? Canelo not fighting?
Yeah, pretty much, who he's going to fight next and who we think he should fight next and why and stuff like that. Yeah, we've been going at it now for a bit. But, yeah, feel free to tell us who you think he should fight next and why, now that you're in here.
I'm always for undisputed, and he already became undisputed. It depends on what weight class he's staying at, I like the Andrade fight and the Charlo fight. But those fights, I really wanted them when it was for undisputed, when they were in the same weight class. It made sense. You get me? Like, when he was your mandatory, like, I wanted to see it then. It kind of loses a little bit of luster. I mean, I still want to see it, but it definitely lost a little bit of luster and whatnot. Especially since Charlo looked a little bit vulnerable in his last fight. What I would really like to see from Charlo and Andrade is them stop trying to fight Canelo so much and make their own name. Try to become undisputed in your own weight class. Charlo and Andrade could fight each other, but I heard Andrade is dropping his belt. So if that's the case, if Andrade's dropping his belt, my sight, if I was Charlo, would be on his belt and Golovkin's belt, and I would try to petition for that belt to be on the line versus Golovkin. And I try to spend whatever money I can to get Golovkin in the ring, because then I can make my own name, and then I can go look for a Canelo fight after that. I mean, if you can get it right now, go for it. But
he's trying to become Canelo's mandatory.
I'm not going to chase
That's what Andrade.
That's
what Andrade's doing. Andre's moving up in weight, so as the WBO champion, if you move up in weight, you can automatically fight in an eliminator. So if Demetrius moves up and fights Zach Parker, he'll win the interim belt and he'll become Canelo's mandatory. That's how I think Boo Boo's trying to force the fight on Canelo that way.
Well, here's the thing: Canelo is undisputed, so if Demetrius Andrade moves up as a champion, he's already Canelo's mandatory. He can move up and petition for it right now. Yeah. Just like Crawford came up for Horn, he could have came up for any one of those champions because he was undisputed. So he doesn't have to go up and fight somebody to get a title shot. He can go up there right now. And
I think he tried that, but the WBO told him that that's what he tried to do. But the WBO told him you have to fight Zach Parker for the interim belt, which is bullshit. Because you're right, he should be. The same way Usyk moved up and he became mandatory. Andrade should have become mandatory, but he told him apparently you have to fight Zach Parker for the interim belt.
Mandatories don't mean shit to Canelo, because when Charlo was his mandatory, he told Charlo, hold this, you can keep that belt. And no one even criticized.
Right.
He literally gave up his belt. That's like walking.
Right, and when he could have,
give me your shit. He just
could have easily defended it.
He could, yeah. But that's around the time when he went to go fight Kovalev.
Yeah, and what's his name is mandatory. The Benavidez fought 2 fights to be mandatory. Like, who the hell fight? He fought 2 eliminators. When he was the former champion, he didn't have to fight any eliminator. But he fought 2 eliminators, and he's a mandatory. So, being a mandatory don't mean nothing to Canelo.
And I see your fight, Healer. I see your point in the fact that at this point, right, if Canelo decides to fight Bivol, which there's a 50-50 chance that might happen. You may even argue 60-40. I think if you're Charlo and Andrade at this point, it's just time to move on, man. Just Canelo's going to do what he wants to do, and all you're doing is wasting energy, stressing yourself out, trying to get this fight. Andre been calling out Canelo for what, 5 years or some shit?
Yeah.
Like he's like the only one that like literally went to his press conference and was like, "Yo, what's up? Like, we gonna get it on?" And then Canelo disrespected him. And now the fact that who's Canelo gonna fight next? That's the conversation at hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. You want payday? You want payday? But the thing about it is, right, at this point, if you're Andre, man, like, you're not even in part of the conversation, like, right now, currently. Your name is not even being mentioned right now, currently, amongst Canelo's team. It's Charlo, Triple G, Benavidez, or Bivol, right? So, at this point, I agree with Healer. It's like, just make your own name for yourself at this point, man. If you want to leave the middleweight division and go up to 168, then, you know, fight, you know, I don't know, fight Plant or some shit. I don't know. But, like, get some names on your resume. Get some former champions on your resume. Or, yeah, maybe you fight Triple G. But at this point, it's like Canelo don't want none. And as you're campaigning and winning and continue to look fabulous, you can continue to be a thorn in Canelo's side and say, you never wanted this. I'm going to keep knocking dudes out, looking great, looking fabulous, and this just proves that you never wanted this, Canelo. And every time you win, you tweet it, you Instagram it, you go on videos, you go on these panels out here and say, Canelo never wanted this. That's what you do if you're Andre at this point, because calling him out ain't working. Because like Healer said, Canelo don't care.
Yep.
Canelo don't give a shit. He's going to do what he wants to do.
He gets angry as well. Because I remember Brian Custer was asking about Andrade, and right away you could see the facial expression on Canelo, like he was thinking, why the fuck are you asking me about this guy? You look angry as well. So I don't know what it is about Demetrius Andrade, but Canelo just does not like him or doesn't want to fight him, or I don't know.
He's like Stormy was saying, he's a true threat. He is an absolute true threat. You think Canelo hasn't been around boxing long enough to know when he sees a fighter to know, like, oh, this guy's going to be a problem? He knows.
Yep.
He knows damn good and well who's going to be a problem and who he thinks is not going to be as much of a problem. When he fought Billy Joe, right, everybody was like, oh, he's fighting a peer boxer now. He has trouble with peer boxers, and he's a southpaw, this, that, and the third. But Canelo wasn't worried about Billy Joe because you know what? He saw enough of Billy Joe to know that I'm going to go to the body, I'm going to get those uppercuts in, and I'm going to break him down, and that's exactly what he did. You can see Canelo's game plan was very clear against Billy Joe. And so that's the thing, right? It's like you don't see Canelo really in the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years be in a really, like, have a bad performance. Every guy that he's fought, he has looked to the eye, especially the casual boxing fans, like, wow, this guy's really good. He beat up Rocky Fielding. He beat up Colin Smith. He beat up Yildirim. He pretty much beat up Saunders after the 3rd round. You know, like, he beat up Liam Smith. So to the eye, to the casual fan, they're like, wow. Right? So Canelo's not stupid, man. He's been around boxing for a very long time. He's been in the stable with Golden Boy. Obviously, we know that he's been with Mayweather. He's learned a lot. Right? So he looks at Andre and he's like, ooh, oh, man, I don't know about this boy. Shit, that's going to be a problem. Right? So that's just how I feel about it, because otherwise, you know, this is the thing, right, is where when champions, like someone like Canelo and his notoriety, it's like you will get the respect on all sides. You force people to either, one, they'll love you, or you force respect, even if they say, well, I don't really like Canelo style or whatever it may be, but you demand that respect because you do fight the likes of Andre. You do fight the likes of these young guys who have talent, who is a threat to your style of fighting in the ring. Rocky Fielding and Colin Smith. I mean, come on, man. Is that style really a threat? Caleb Plant was the kind of like the closest thing to be a stylistic threat to Canelo. And we saw that in the first 5 or 6 rounds. Right? But then all of a sudden, Caleb decided to be Canelo's friend and ask for accreditation in the middle of a damn fight. Now, some people say that was staged. At this point, I don't know. Nothing will surprise me at this point. But at the end of the day, man, when was the last time you saw Canelo in trouble? When was the last time you saw Canelo be in a real razor close fight? And that's Triple G, right? Especially the first fight.
Yeah.
No, sorry, the second fight. Right? Where it was a majority decision, or was it the first fight? Was it the first fight? Was this razor close, right? The split decision draw.
Yeah, first fight.
Yeah, where a lot of people thought that Triple G won it. That was the last time that we really saw Canelo be in a very tough razor close fight where it could have went either way. Since then, it's like he learned from that, right? He was like, "Man, I've been through a real war. I don't want to be any part of that type of situation anymore." And then he went on this run of Rocky Fieldings and Caleb Smiths and Yildirim's and these guys to continue to add a little bit more appeal to himself and his brand. Danny Jacobs, which I give Canelo actually credit for that fight. Danny Jacobs looked good in spots, but Canelo was really never in trouble. So the argument would be, well, Devon, maybe Canelo's just that good. Maybe he's just so good that he makes good fighters look like normal fighters. Maybe that's what Arturo is thinking right now. He's been silent, let me cook here. But to that I say, okay, maybe he is that good, but prove it. Prove it against an Andrade. Prove it. Because the last time you had to prove it was against Triple G, in my opinion. Ever since then, you haven't proved shit to me. And that's my opinion on that. We got my man Stacy Rubin in the super chat, man. I appreciate you. He says, Andrade can box and is awkward. I like that word. You should have put that in capital letters. He is very awkward and very difficult to figure out. The two main styles that give Canelo problems. That's why Canelo has avoided him like the plague. I can't disagree with Stacy, man. I got to say, spot on. Absolutely. Because Andrade is very awkward and he has very, very good fundamentals and can box very well. So it makes sense to me.
Devon.
So go ahead and jump in.
Hey, man, sorry, I was cooking dinner for my kids and giving them a bath and putting them to bed. But
yes, sir.
Well, I was listening to what Stormy B says, and I agree with Stormy B. I think it's a bigger problem than Canelo. I just think it's boxing, and it could be the era that they're in as far as it just being an issue. I know that since today this conversation is more about Canelo, but it is a bigger issue. So kind of to go against kind of what was being said earlier was, why aren't these other fighters fighting each other? I mean, we're not holding any, and then Stormy B did bring it up, and that's what I'm glad he said it, was Andrade and Charlo could have fought each other, and they haven't, right? Canelo has to, reach down again. They talked about Charlo not looking good. Someone had mentioned it earlier. Neither has Andrade. Andrade hasn't looked like absolutely amazing. I think they need to build their own legacy and fight each other and start knocking people out and knocking off some of these top fighters. Otherwise, it's the same thing, kind of what you were saying with him fighting Callum Smith and then Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant. Plant's been ducking Benavidez for I don't know how long. So a lot of these other fighters, they're not fighting each other. That has nothing to do with Canelo. That's not Canelo's fault that they're not willing to fight each other and do that. They just know that, again, because you said it a little earlier, the payday, people want to get paid. At some point, they want to get paid, but they're not willing to take out the other competition as well. So there is that side to it, as well as I've like, again, my preference is that he stays at 168. I don't really think he's a 175 pounder, and to go up there would be just for him to try to unify and do something because he feels that he can. But I think if legacy wise, just stay at 168 and say, if you want a piece of me, come get it, and then stay at 168. So, fight Boo Boo, fight Charlo, fight Benavidez, and then whoever else wants them, have them come to them. I mean, look at Triple G, stay at 160 his whole career. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with as far as Canelo goes.
Yeah, and it's similar to what Healer just said as far as these guys should be fighting each other, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't think these guys should be putting their career on pause just to get a shot at Canelo. But Andrade has literally been calling Canelo out, and I also believe that it's not just Canelo that doesn't want to fight Andrade. I think there's a lot of 168 pounders that don't want to fight Andrade, or 160 as well. I don't think a lot of people don't want to fight Andrade. It's not just Canelo, in my opinion. So it's hard to get these fights when they don't want to fight him.
Right. So then you corner him, as he was saying. You fight everybody else, and you corner it and make it into the fight that it needs to be. So if people feel that Canelo is ducking and jumping from place to place.
Because he was cornered. It gets no more cornered than literally having one guy left for undisputed. He could have done, instead of beating Demetrius Andrade at 160 for undisputed, he went up a whole weight class and fought 3 to 4 more fights in order to become undisputed. We praise him for undisputed, but we should be chastising you for literally ducking Andrade, because Andrade earned the right. He beat the right people. See, if Andrade, I shudder to think, what if it was, let's say Andrade wasn't in the picture and it was Billy Joe Saunders who still held that title at 160. I guarantee you Canelo would be a champion at 160. I'm personally for having a record for boxers that has wins, losses, draws, and ducks, because that's a clear duck. You left the whole division, bro. And by him having multiple titles, he can just select multiple opponents at the same time. Oh, I'm not going to fight you because I have to go here. It's extremely strategic. Whoever's doing, Canelo probably has a drawing board and a rule. You get me? On the subject of Andrade and Charlo, what they're trying to do is what they did back in the 60s. Get these dangerous fighters to fight each other. I don't want to fight them, so I'm going to let you fight them. Explain to me how this dude defended his WBC belt against Andy Yildirim, but he threw away his WBC belt when Charlo was the mandatory. That's cornering. That's fighting the right people to get to that. In fact, Canelo kind of robbed Charlo, because Charlo defeated the right people to become the interim champion, then defended his interim belt in order to allow Canelo to go on and fight Golovkin. Canelo did not honor his mandatory by when he beat Golovkin. When he beat Golovkin, he took on the responsibility to fight Charlo, and he abandoned that responsibility. So the fact of the matter is, Golovkin was the original target. Golovkin is hiding out, waiting for Canelo payday. He's not exempt from this. He's chasing Canelo too. He should be fighting Andrade and Charlo, because that'll give us undisputed at 160.
Right. And it didn't happen. And Arturo, I don't know if you know this, but Canelo only fought as a 160 pounder for 4, maybe 5 fights, and 2 of those were against, Golovkin. They fought each other twice. And he won his first middleweight title against, do you know who? Miguel Cotto. And Miguel Cotto has never been a true middleweight. We know this, right? He moved up, and they fought at middleweight. And then he retained that title that he won against Cotto against Amir Khan. We also know that Amir Khan's not a damn middleweight either. And then he moved back down. He moved back down to fight Liam Smith for the light middleweight title. So he went back down to 154. And then he went to the 160 again to fight the 2 Golovkin fights, one of which was razor thin, could have went either way. And then that was it. And then, he did it one more time against Danny Jacobs. Because after the Golovkin fight, he fought Fielding. That was at 168. He went back down to 160 to fight Danny Jacobs. And that was it. He never fought at 160 again. So during that stretch, why? My question is, why fight Rocky Fielding at 168 when there's unfinished business at 160 after you've just beaten Golovkin? That's my
There was
question.
no point. There was no point because he could have just fought Andrade. Here's the thing: if he left the division without fighting Charlo, I'd have been fine with that. Fight Andrade because that's undisputed. Then you could be like, all right, I did everything I needed to do here. I'm out. I'm fine.
Right.
I'm fine with just that.
Right. And if you're going to say, well, Divine, he wanted the chance at glory and go up a weight class and grab a belt and whatever. But okay, my counter to that is, who's the better fighter? Who's the bigger threat? Fielding or Andrade? Fielding got TKO'd in 3.
Which is a better, makes you greater, a secondary title or undisputed?
That's a good question too. Undisputed, absolutely, with no doubt. Right? He and the thing is, it's like he did more work. He did more work at 168 than what he did at 160. But the talent was at 160. 168 has never been full of talent. You've had a couple guys here and there that are decent, but 160 at one point was full of talent. And somehow he only fought Danny and Golovkin, and then 2 guys who were never middleweights to begin with, in Miguel Cotto and Amir Khan. But he did more work at 168.
What must be paid attention to is that he fought Danny Jacobs, which was the only one of the other champions who already had a loss. 2 losses, actually. Charlo and Andrade at the time were both undefeated, so it can be said that of the 3 champions at 160, when actually no, Charlo was a champion. He was a mandatory. He was an interim. So I guess you could say out of Danny Jacobs and Andrade, the lesser in terms of Danny Jacobs had already been knocked out. So Charlo would have, Andrade would have been more definitive competition, but I give him 100% credit for Danny Jacobs, because it was a tough fight, and I didn't think he was going to take it, and he did. And he was a champion, so he gets respect for that one.
Let me get back to my man Stacy Rubin back in that super chat. He says, it's why Benavidez has called out Andrade. He wants a legacy and force Canelo's team to fight or lose a belt, corner him into the fight. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if at this point, if you're Andrade, you got to just accept the fact Canelo, he doesn't care about you. He's already told you that. You've called him out multiple times. He doesn't care. So time to move on and make a name for yourself. Go fight Benavidez. Go take care of that. And then that continues to put more added pressure. And like I said, you beat a guy like Benavidez, you beat a guy like Caleb Plant, you start making noise at the 168-pound division, if that's your plan to go to. And every time you win, you're like, see, Canelo, you don't want this. You don't want this. You don't want this. Imagine if, it could work out beautifully for Andrade, potentially, if he does this, right? Because imagine if he stops Benavidez. Imagine if he stops Caleb Plant faster and better than what Canelo did. That's extremely, added pressure, an extreme amount of added pressure to Canelo at that point, if Canelo's out there hopscotching around like the light heavyweights and the cruiserweights. So, I think we've cut it, sliced it, and diced it every single possible way that we could tonight when it comes to Canelo. And once again, we're playing that waiting game. Some of us are holding our breath. Some of us don't really care at this point on what Canelo is going to do next. He's got names on the table, who he's going to choose. There's rumors spreading. Like, I see channels out there saying, oh, he's already signed with Bivol. And then Canelo says, no, I didn't. No, I haven't yet. Oh, I guess he's going to fight Charlo. Oh, no, I'm not fighting him either. It's just, it's insanity at this point. But I wanted to at least give my thoughts on the topic and have some esteemed gentlemen on the panel tonight to also give their thoughts. We had some really good talent in here to come in here and give some thoughts, and I appreciate all of you. And, honestly, it's on to bigger and better things, which is we got a great fight coming up in Spence and Ugas. What's his name? Just slipped my mind. A fight coming up this weekend. Josh Taylor.
Chris Colbert
Yeah.
versus Hector Garcia.
Hector Garcia. Yep.
Virgil Ortiz, I think, right?
Yep. And Josh Taylor's also fighting this weekend, defending all of his belts. So that's coming up soon. And, so bigger and better things to talk about than having to worry about Canelo and his shenanigans. Another thing is like you're at the point of your career, if you're Canelo, where enough with the bullshit. You've already proven yourself. So how about just start defending? It's like you're on the top of the mountain. How about just start knocking dudes down that try to take the climb up? Why do you continue to try to climb up the mountain when you're already on top of the mountain? How about knock the dudes down that are trying to come up and take the throne from you? Let's do that. And so until that happens, all we're doing is getting upset about how he's conducting his career, and then we get called haters and all kinds of different stuff. And it is what it is, man. But like I said, we got bigger and better things coming up here in the near future. I put a poll up on my channel in the community page section as well, asking my subscribers on who they would like me talk about next as far as the upcoming fights. And most people, not surprisingly, voted for me to talk about Earl Spence and Ugas. But we did get a fair amount of people voting in the poll that they would like to hear me talk about Stevenson and Valdez. That's going to be a great fight. A few people wanted me to talk about Fury and White. And then some other people actually voted they wanted me just to open a panel and just talk about some life type stuff, which people also enjoy me to talk about. But nonetheless, I'm going to talk about all of them. It's just a matter of which one I'm going to talk about first. I will also, guys, I'll do my live commentary on at least the Josh Taylor fight. I'll probably go live and commentate that fight live. The other fight's coming up here soon. I'm going to try my best. But nonetheless, you guys will more than likely see me for the Josh Taylor fight. And yeah, so if I'm not live until that point, you guys will see me then. And, I appreciate everyone that stopped by. It's getting kind of late there in the stateside, so a lot of people went live tonight. A lot of channels went live tonight. So we kind of caught the tail end of the crowd, here late. What is it for you guys? Well, now it's officially Tuesday morning if you're on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And as I've been telling you guys, I will be stateside next month. I'm going to be initially in Missouri to handle some family stuff. And then after that, I'm kind of a bird out of its cage and I can end up anywhere. So we'll see what happens. There's a few people that I would try to link up with. The idea is to try to link up with some content creators out here in person and have a nice live session about one of these big topics, one of these big fights coming up. That's my goal. And so, yeah, just want to let you guys know that we'll be stateside. So the timing will be much feasible for everyone because I'll be on the same time zone finally as everyone else. And so I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, look, like I said, I appreciate everybody. It's all about boxing at the end of the day. We keep it consistent. We don't just hate on one man. We don't criticize just one person just because it's fun or it's the thing that we think that we have to do or jump on a bandwagon to get views or clicks. We do it literally for everyone, even sometimes our favorite fighters. You know what I mean? And that's what makes boxing grow and makes boxing more appealing to people. Ultimately, we want to invite people to boxing, right? And we want to invite them in the right way and educate them the right way and all that good stuff. So, gentlemen, feel free if you have channels out here. I know K-Rod, you do. Healer, feel free to drop your link into the chat. Let people know where they can find you, and hope to see you guys again soon.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that link. I'm sorry I couldn't come on earlier. Just had my hands full, but got to knock out and get some sleep late over here. But it's fun chatting with you, man. Let's do it again. Should definitely swing by my channel next time. Talk about combat sports, life stuff. I'm probably going to be fighting this year. So stay tuned to my channel. I'm doing training camp videos. Pay attention to that. It's your boy Healer, aka the Iron Lion. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a wonderful night.
Yeah,
All right, man. Thank you for coming in. Before we swing it around real quick so you guys can say any final thoughts, Stacy Rubin in there with that final super chat. He says Josh Taylor is a big one. Let him, I think he's trying to say let's get him in there with Mikey Garcia maybe. Yeah, Josh Taylor is one of the very few undisputed fighters out there. I'm curious to see where his career goes from here. He's defending his titles once again. Love to see it, and I'm looking forward to commentating on that fight. So definitely. And Stacy, I appreciate all the super chats tonight, man. Much love and appreciation. K-Rod, man, you got anything to say? Let the people know what you're up to on your channel. K-Rod, you there? Arturo, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, Arturo, it's always good to have you, man. I know sometimes you might feel like you're a little bit outnumbered sometimes, but I appreciate that you appreciate the boxing commentary, and that it's all out of love. And that I appreciate Canelo's skills a lot when it comes to the stylistic point of things of boxing. Like Canelo brings a lot to the table, skill wise. I think he's full of talent. It's just that we may have a little bit of a different opinion on how he should conduct his career path. But nonetheless, I appreciate you stopping in and being level-headed and just trying to state your case.
I appreciate you having me on again. Look forward to the next one. Just for everyone else out there, I know that I'm in the minority when it comes to the way Canelo conducts himself. But remember just to hold every one of those to those similar standards. Hopefully, Andrade, Boo Boo, and all of them start fighting each other, so that way we can really see who the best is out there. And that way, at times, I hope that also Canelo will get the deserved praise that he gets it when he beats them, or if he beats them. Then it kind of goes both ways. But I do hope it's Charlo. I do hope he stays at 168. I do hope he clears out the division and he finishes his career there. 175, I think, it'll be dangerous for him. Like you said, he'll get a cherry pick gone wrong type deal, and he'll just get laid out. But again, I appreciate it. Appreciate everyone out there, and I appreciate your time, man. You take care.
All right, brother. Take care of you and your family, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, so, if you haven't hit the like button, we're at 58 right now. If we can get that 60 somehow, if you haven't hit that like button yet, slip in that like button before I jump up out of here, just to kind of finalize and put a punctuation point to this great panel that we had tonight talking about boxing. And Deanna, yeah, I know you and Drew are both there in New York. It's very, very, very tempting. It's a little bit out of the way, to be honest, but not off the table. And I don't deal with the cold very much either. I don't do that. I'm from Arizona, and I've been living in Southeast Asia for better part of the decade. So I like my warmth. I like my I can wear my tanks and my sandals, and that's something that I'm not going to be able to do in New York for sure. But with that being said, it would be amazing to link up with you and Drew and kick it, maybe go out for a dinner, and just chop it up together. That would be awesome. There's a lot of people out there in the States, all spread out throughout the United States, that have been showing me a lot of love over the years that I would love to link up with. And time is limited. I'm probably going to be out there 2 to 3 weeks, so not too long. So I'll try to kill as many birds with one stone as I can, for sure. Yeah, Stacy, man, I appreciate all the love. Like I said, I'm glad you really like this channel. And, if you love good boxing talk and you love logical speaking and not a bunch of ranting and raving and screaming and yelling, which I do get heated sometimes, I'm not going to lie. But I try my best to speak logical points and break it down in that manner as much as I possibly can. So it means a lot when you guys come in here and say that you love the channel, you send your super chats, you become official member of the channels, which, by the way, you guys can still do, man. Become an official member, just like my homie right here, Deanna Branch, an official member of the channel. You guys see the little custom emoji next to her name. A lot of you guys already got, like, I see Deanna and a few others in here earlier have already got the lion head emoji. That means the lion head means that you've been an official member of the channel for more than 6 months. So big salute to you. Your small contribution every month means a lot to me, and it keeps me motivated to come on here and continue to do what I do. If you're curious to how to become also an official member, to gain access to these emojis and different stuff, and also exclusive videos, then just scroll through and click the join button, not the subscribe button, but the join button, and then you can plug in and become an official member of the channel. I appreciate you guys a lot. Guys, I know a lot of places in the States is still cold out there, so stay warm, bundle up. Hopefully we get into March here soon to start warming up a little bit. And stay safe, stay positive, stay strong. It's your boy Divine. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.